Okay.
All right.
No,
So yeah, that's a Teams meeting.
I would say I'd join you, but I've got an appointment at 11 o'clock, so I can't.
All right, no worries. And then what else is there? That's it in terms of on-site or Teams meetings. And then I'm just sorting out a table of what I've done when, so everything's visible to people.
Brilliant. Stuart, you're making me hungry.
And I'm sorry, I've not eaten all day. Can I just say, Carl, I think we've talked about this. We, not I, we, sorting out a table.
Yes, we're setting out a table.
We sorting out a table. Yeah,
Stu's
thank you.
the techno wizard. I'll tell him what to put and he'll do it.
I think that means you're doing it, Carl, then. He can't speak now, he's got his mouth full.
I've learned very quickly in the last few weeks, there's no I in team.
Ah, know that one.
And if you're a leaseholder at the mill, there's no F in team spirit.
No. He's frozen.
Where's everyone else?
I'm not sure.
Is Paul joining us?
Paul should be joining us. I mean, he's been allocated some time. Let me do a quick ring round of people and just see where they are.
Is Julie joining us?
She got an invite. Yeah, she should be. Oh, hang on. What's this? Oh, James is in the lobby. James is joining us now. Let me chase up Paul. I'm just going to put you all on mute while I chase up Paul. Oh, hang on. Looks like Julie's joining us. So it's just Paul that's outstanding.
Do you want me to message him?
I'm just going to try and call him now.
Okay.
Hi, James. Oh, hi,
Hello.
Julie.
I can hear her voice. Is that Julie?
It is. Hi.
Hi, Julie.
Hiya, Julie. Can't see you on screen. Oh,
Just a second. I've got this new computer. I'm trying to work it out. Oh, there I am.
You're there.
Ah, hello.
Where's your camera, Carl?
Mine's knackered.
I don't think he likes us to look at him.
Can you see me like waving or anything at all?
No.
It just looks grey.
Hi, Ron.
Hello. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you.
Yeah.
Stuart's frozen.
Oh no, it's moving.
No, he's not moving on mine.
Paul will be joining shortly. You normally freeze on mine, Sally, to be honest. Paul will be joining shortly.
Oh God, don't be eating, Stu. I'm starving.
That's just what I've said to him.
Yeah, I'm absolutely starving.
I'm sorry, it's 9:30 here and I've not eaten all day. I am absolutely starving.
Is James on?
James is on.
Oh, right, can't see James either, but you can only see so many.
I actually can't see him now you mention it. Paul Taylor is joining.
Oh. No. Hey.
Yeah, I can see.
I can see James now. Yeah, he's there. Well, I can see the circle. He's online. Okay, well, I guess we're all here. So quickly whizzing through the agenda items. Appointment of Julie Hickling to the Board of Directors. Congratulations, Julie. May God have mercy on your soul. Declarations of any conflicts of... Sorry, I assume everyone's okay with the appointment of Julie. There's no issues or anything there. Everyone's happy with that.
Yeah, yep. I'm absolutely fine. We did double check that we're okay. It's official, that it's not just like I was asking earlier in the week, that she can be appointed officially as a director.
Yeah,
it looked like it could from what Carl put out.
I think looking at the Articles of Association, it does appear that she can be appointed as a director. I think this term act as versus acting is semantics. I think we just get around that by simply saying we co-opted you to the board of directors.
Yeah.
to fulfill an urgent need.
I've got to say, guys, it didn't really look like she couldn't be appointed. I don't know where that came from, to be honest.
I think the only thing we had to clear up was the whole third of the board retiring. It doesn't seem to count for Julie, and it just seems that Julie ought to restand. That was my reading of the articles, but it just sounds like she's a director. It just might be at the AGM that it comes into play, but that's it.
I think we've established that when it comes to the AGM, Julie, that you don't default carry on. Pretty much as the conversation we had yesterday. You do have to restand, but then conversely, you're not part of the third that has to stand down and be re-elected, but you have to do that anyway, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think everyone's in agreement and happy with that. Very pleased that you've joined us, Julie, and I think it's safe to say that you coming on board is probably one of the big things that has made a number of us decide that we wanted to persevere with this and keep driving forward. So I'm glad you've come on board.
Yeah.
Here. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
We need your help.
No pressure.
Lots of pressure.
So moving quickly on, declarations of any conflicts of interest. I think for the sake of good order, we've already got some declared conflicts of interest, which are obviously ongoing. I think, not meaning to speak for Julie now, but I think obviously there's perceived potential conflict of interest in relation to the appointment of John, but that was all addressed and should have been boxed off prior to Julie joining the board. Unfortunately, just hasn't been by WPM. I did chase up today on that front. You should be hearing something if you haven't already.
Okay.
And I'm going to be honest, I'm actually going to throw a bit of a conflict of interest in here because I'm feeling a little bit conflicted by desire to get Joan's situation sorted versus the practicality of doing so in terms of where that leaves the rest of the leaseholders. But I think that, again, is probably true for all of us. So we move on to James. James, the floor is yours for... well, I'll just quickly explain to everyone that James and I had a good chat on Friday night about recent events and what we've been trying to achieve versus maybe how we've been perceiving it. And I think James has had a chat with a number of people over the weekend as well. So, James, I'll hand this over to you and you can go through the points that you made to me on Friday night, which I think were very, very valid and very well put. James, over to you.
Well, I mean, firstly, there's a difference between me as a leaseholder and me as a director. So a large portion of the issues that I've had we're discussing my personal stuff. Even now, I suppose. So, I mean, I can't, any issues I suppose you have with me as a leaseholder need to be dealt with me as a leaseholder. So, I mean, in terms of minutes, I don't agree with. I mean, I read those minutes. I mean, again, the opening gambit saying that I said you're going to look stupid. That's just not what was said. It was Nick that said I've taken a load of calls. Then he's when I've taken 2 calls or something like that, 2 or 3 calls from leaseholders, and we look stupid. It's just a narrative that's being put forward about me, certainly in those minutes that I'm seeing, and there was a couple of other things in there. I mean, obviously, I've made a statement or a reply as a leaseholder or as a director, because I was addressed as a director, but you need to speak to me as a leaseholder with all those issues. I've replied to that. Stu, you came back with something. I mean, there are potentially some still issues that I have, but I mean, it's not really for this for here, really. We've got some, we need to, as I say, I'm a leaseholder, or those should have been addressed to me as a leaseholder, and now it's kind of like, again, in a board meeting here. So I think we need to leave that for elsewhere, really.
I think, James, the point that you made very, very articulately to me on Friday night is obviously a number of people were a bit concerned that it appeared that you were looking at legal action against the rest of us. And you made a very good point in your reply to me, which is that that's how we should be feeling before making any decision with leaseholders' money. And I thought that was a very well thought out, I'm paraphrasing it slightly, but I thought it was a very well thought out point and a very valid point that actually that's how we should be approaching things.
Well, I mean, all right, we'll move on from me as a leaseholder. So, I mean, yesterday I felt, I mean, again, we go back to this acting director, and I'm like, well, where do these things come from? I don't understand. I come on, you know, I read something, and then it's almost like there's a kind of decision on with, you know, it seemed that Sally came out with a point, but it seemed like, you know, almost stated fact. You know, there's an acting director, not a director. I just don't know where these things come from. It's almost like I don't know. Sorry, go on.
So it was a question because that was the impression I was under. That it took
From who?
us as individuals the time and effort to actually get voted onto the board. I mean, this is what Julie and Jules and everybody helped out, getting all these people to vote us onto the board. And I was just a little bit, I wanted to make sure that we were handling it the right way and that we can just simply co-opt somebody on. I'm very happy with it, but I was under the impression that there had to be an acting director until the next board meeting. That's all I was saying.
No, but you actually stated facts though, and I actually asked you and I said, well, have you read the Mems and Arts? And then you came back and, well, you didn't come back until later on. It's the fact that you're saying under the impression. It's these kind of, you know, after actually stating fact, and it was a factual statement. I'll read the text, Julie. I'm not sorry, Julie, Sally. Read the text. Read what you wrote. If you want me to go back and read it, I will do. But I don't want, you know, I don't want. I'm just saying these are my concerns.
Sorry, but it was a question. It was meant to be a question, and I'm.
It didn't have a question.
I'm concerned as to why you're taking issue with the minutiae. We just need to get on with this. It was a question, and I want to make sure we're doing the right thing. We're doing the right thing. Carl put it out there, and I'm happy with it. That's fine. End of.
Right. It's not end of. Because you're saying that it was a question and it was clearly a statement of fact.
Well, it was meant to be a question. It was meant to be a question. I do apologise.
I understood it as you meant to say it, Sally. Yeah, I understood it.
But the problem is, if it was written, you know, to anybody else, you might have understood it wrong. Yeah. If it's written to anybody else, that wouldn't be understood that way. It would understood to be a statement of fact with no question mark.
Yeah, you're right.
So I'm sorry, you know, when you say minutiae, yeah, to a degree. I mean, it is minutiae, but I mean, all of these things that we seem to be debating about are minutiae, but it wouldn't be minutiae if it was affected. It wouldn't be minutiae if it was affected. Yeah,
you're right.
And someone came on, so that's where I've got a problem.
You're right, James.
So
when we're speaking outside this forum, we've got to be exactly specific. But I understand what Sally was saying. I understand where you're coming from, James. But when we're just communicating between ourselves, if the terminology in 100%, it's not meant to be, you know, malicious or misdirected. People make mistakes in the terminology, and I'm hold my hand up for that. But, you know.
Okay. I mean, all right. Well, you're fine.
I don't think there was anything meant in it.
Yeah. All right.
I would just say that I think that was an example of something actually that was fairly constructively dealt with. There was a question. I'll be honest, I took it as a question posed. We had a back and forth on it. I think we all came to pretty much the same resolution. But I think James has made a very good point that, and Ron also, within the group, obviously we need to keep in mind that there will be occasions where we perhaps, you know, quickly type something without really thinking, but we do need to tighten up on how that gets out externally. We need to be sure, because you know what, with all the best will in the world, you know that the likes of Solid and so on could make a fuss about Julie's appointment if we haven't checked everything and dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. So I think again, James is using this to sort of reinforce his earlier point that we do need to be very careful when we point stuff out to the wider realm.
Well, that's why I actually send things in as a draft. and then people can put the comments.
James, do you want to anything else you want to mention in relation to recent events or going forward? Or
Well,
are you...
other than, as I say, the minutes and going through all the stuff that has been kind of minuted by Jane, which I've kind of not agreed with, and I can pull out. Have we got all copies of the? Because if we got all copies of the transcribes of every meeting, I'm not really concerned because the minutes are neither here nor there really. If you've got the transcribe, my concern is personal information has been put on those minutes, which can go out to the wider, well, anybody can't, because the minutes are available to leaseholders. So I have got a concern with that, certainly with the things that are said, which are, find concerning, some of the things. So
But
I need
equally,
to.
We and I know this is on the table for possible discussion later. We need to be mindful that technically, if anybody requests Nick Jordan's resignation letter, we have to disclose it, and that also contains some personal statements.
Well, yeah, well, there'll be a lot of problems if my personal information goes out.
But
lots of problems. So let's make sure that doesn't happen, and then hopefully there won't be too many more issues that come from all of this. So we need to go through everything. I mean, if you want me to, I can raise it all as a reply to when you come back to me as a leaseholder rather than as a director, and I'll just raise it all. I mean, I'm trying to kind of move on without having to, but I can't have this dispute that's gone on, and there's clearly information. It's totally wrong. Now, whether that's malicious or accidental, it's totally wrong, and it's got my personal information in it. So I
think we're all happy just to, if you're in agreement with this, we accept that a point's been made, and to try and do better going forward, but to sort of draw a line under it all and move on, if you're happy to do that.
Well, as long as moving on comes with having dealt with my personal information not going out there. If Nick's put it in his resignation letter and he wants that to go out there, then I'll have to be dealing with that as well. Then,
Nick's been very clear on that. It's in terms of releasing his resignation letter as a board, he's happy with whatever we put forward to explain it, which will just simply be that something to the effect of wasn't able to work alongside. We'll think not individuals, but the direction of the group or something. We'll figure something out that basically addresses it.
Because bear in mind, I'm also sorry.
So I was just going to say, I don't know where we stand if anybody else requests his resignation letter. That's a bit of a grey.
Again, if my personal information goes out on there, we've got a serious GDPR issue, and again, all of this needs. So I'm happy to kind of try and get moving over all of this, but obviously, I
think before we release anything, we'd obviously run it past you, and maybe we release a redacted version. But what I would also say is Nick's resignation letter, I don't think could be considered formal because it was simply sent as an email. When I put mine as an email, I did actually prepare a follow-up signed letter. Whereas Nick hasn't. So again, I would argue that there hasn't been a formal resignation letter, but just a general consensus, mutual agreement that it wasn't practical for him to return. So we can get around that issue, and obviously even if we had to release anything, we'd redact it so your details not released.
But yeah, I mean, again, I'm also entitled to make statements, so on and so forth. So in order not to get into this situation, I think we just need to manage it, and I need to overlook these minutes where I feel that they're incorrect. But yeah, as I say, I'm happy to get over this. I am concerned how it all happened to a degree without going through this. But like I say, I'm trying to move over this, and hopefully we can.
Okay. I think we're all in agreement. And okay, let's move on to Paul and Steph. I want to thank Steph for all their efforts over the weekend. I know she spent a lot of time looking at different things. I'm not an expert on company law. James knows a hell of a lot more about company law than I do, and obviously your father knows a hell of a lot more than I do, and I'm guessing other people on this call may. So guys, I'm going to hand this part over to you. I was very intrigued yesterday by your findings. So off you. Oh, sorry, James.
Sorry as well. I mean, obviously, I would just by chance, I'm down in London on a meeting. I've also got Ed here as well. So
That's brilliant that you've got Ed with you. Is he on the call? Is he listening?
He's not on the call. He's next to me. So if again, I only got wind of potentially because I briefly spoke to again declaring that I've spoken to somebody. I'm not speaking to people without But I briefly spoke to Stu about the dispensation before, and he mentioned. So I asked Ed to stay behind because he was catching the train back. So I've got him here for some. If need. What? Sorry.
Can everyone see that screen? Oh, no.
You're not sharing the screen presently, no. Just to explain to Steph, Ed is James's business partner who's very kindly been providing us also with some legal advice. He's a trained, qualified solicitor, essentially, although not practicing, but he's qualified. So it'd be good to.
Sorry, Stu, let me just think it. So he's legally trained. He's got a law degree and he's done his LPC. I've been in business with him 20 years. We've probably been to court, or should I say, we're tribunal proceedings. I'd say we've embarked on about 100 cases. We've still got an active case now with the tribunal. We've got a number of things, so we're quite well up with this. Ed also runs a management company for some developments and sites that I've got. So
yeah, can everyone see that?
Can you see the screen yet? Because it's important.
You're not sharing your screen now.
It is. It's because he's got bloody locks on the computer. Right, 1 second, let's see. Nothing ever wants to work when I need it to work. Right, share screen. It goes to share screen 1.
It's sharing now.
Present.
What I will say is I'm going to turn my camera off because I hate it when I'm sharing the screen.
Yeah. Come up, say.
I can see a dog.
I think the presentation's coming.
On the screen, on my screen.
I can see a dog too.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry.
Is it coming up saying Mimco Research?
No, it's just got a dog.
Oh, just not on mine.
Right, I'll do it with. I might have to do it without because his computer's not working like mine. Right. So, sorry guys, I'll have to turn off the sharing and go from that. What I've done over the weekend is just do some general research, and the first point that has come up is the fact that the company, Mimco, has dormant company status. So a dormant company can have no significant trading other than its filing costs at Companies House. So a dormant company can't enter into contracts. It can't have debtors or creditors, and it can't hold assets. And this has been the status of the company at Companies House since its inception in 2004. So all the time that the other directors were board directors, they were board directors of a dormant company.
As you are.
As we are now. Oh, yeah, you guys, I'm not. Are directors of a dormant company. So legally, it's not. It doesn't exist. It doesn't do anything. It's like we said. It's like having a car in the garage, and you don't need to insure it. You can't get into car crashes, but you've got it in the garage. It's effectively that in terms of status. Is everyone okay with that?
I'm with that.
Yeah.
Yep. So, as a dormant company, then it can't own any assets, and it can't be made to have any insurance. That's the first thing that I went through. Is there anything else? Yeah. The second thing is the first right of refusal, section 5A. So that's one of the things that you guys have been looking into in terms of how to restructure things going forward. So the right of first refusal only applies when the immediate landlord sells. So it doesn't read as though it applies in our case, because the immediate landlord at the point that the building was sold to Griff was Mimco, not the individual leaseholders, and it was Mimco when it was owned by Binks before the board of directors came on. So we're talking 2019, and Binks signed off.
Sorry, what's your name? Sorry, I didn't get. I didn't. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, what's your name?
Steph.
Sorry, what was your name? Sorry.
Stephanie.
Could you just quickly run that over with Steph? Could you just quickly run that over with Ed? Because I didn't quite grasp it. Just again, sorry, it's just obviously we run a number of companies and it didn't quite ring. I just didn't quite get that there. Just can you just run that quickly over again? Is that all right?
Right.
What,
I'll
sorry?
just go through it. I'll go through it for you now. It's the right of refusal is.
This is section 5.
Just quickly, 2 seconds. Quickly, just run over it.
Section 5A applied to us.
Hello, is that Steph?
It is, yes. Hi. So section 5A was applied.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Steph. Hi.
Hi. So section 5A was applicable.
Hi. Okay, yeah, go on. So what's the situation there? I mean, I just get.
Yeah, so section 5A was applicable to Mimco in 2019 when the Mimco company, dormant company, it was owned by Richard Binks.
And can hold intellectual assets.
And at that point in 2019, when it was sold to Griff, the land was sold to Griff. Griff only had to get the agreement of the head lease.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, Steph. Steph, just for a minute. I think quite a lot of it cut off there. I just got little bits from James about the situation. I did hear what you said about dormant company, which if it's a dormant company, then yeah, it's.
Have you heard what I said about the section 5A?
When was it made dormant?
The section 5A?
No, I didn't hear. I didn't hear about the dormant company.
Okay, so
no, I didn't hear that. No, I'm sorry.
So dormant companies can only hold non-tangible assets. Yeah, so they can hold the. Oh, we've frozen.
We frozen.
I think so.
Well, they can hold that. They can hold property. That's basically what.
No.
What's that? Sorry.
So from what we've read,
I think it's you. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else can hear, but I'm finding it really difficult to hear you.
I can hear.
Yeah.
I can hear.
Dormant companies are pretty much only used to hold assets or to hold
intangible assets.
Maybe it's I don't know, but I mean, from what I understand, dormant companies. If this is a company that's making any sort of decision.
Yeah, then it can't be a dormant company.
Well, it can hold property, and that's sort of tangible, isn't it?
It can hold leases for properties.
No, it can. No, it definitely can. I mean, dormant companies are.
But then it would have an asset, and it would have to declare the asset annually on its profit and loss.
A dormant company can do lots of different things.
Okay, well that's one point. Well,
right, perhaps it might do. I'm not sure it does. But the point, I suppose, what we're sort of getting, I think we're getting a little bit caught up, perhaps, on that. The whole issue is if this, I had no idea it was dormant company. I've just heard that now. I've not looked into any of this. If it's a dormant company, then it's the wrong vehicle for what's going on.
That's the point of the whole.
It can't operate like this. So either whoever set it up as a dormant company.
Yes. Thank you. It's the wrong vehicle, is what I'm trying to say. So it's a dormant company.
Yeah, but the problem is
since the start. Oh, poor network quality.
James, I don't know if you can hear me.
A dormant company, if it's registered as a dormant company, but
it is. It is registered as a dormant company.
For that, type it.
Yeah, well, if it's registered as a dormant company, then it shouldn't be. because it's
Next.
carrying out functions that don't fit with a dormant company. So whoever did that has got it wrong.
Yes.
And the thing is, the lease says that the landlord, the owner, the freeholder, they've granted a lease to Millroyd Island or whatever, and if that company performs other functions, it shouldn't be dormant. So there's been a mistake made in the past which needs to be rectified. If it's not been operating as a dormant company, then it isn't. It might be registered as such. It might be submitting accounts as such, but it shouldn't be. So it just needs to be dealt with. That's a sort of admin task, really. But
Yeah,
you know,
well-
and accounts will be submitted to show it's not dormant anymore. It'll need to have its SIC code or whatever.
I think one implication here, though, that we need to consider is all this talk of opening bank accounts and things. As a dormant company, can we
No.
actually do that?
No.
No.
And in fairness,
Unless
we don't
you trade-
actually have any contract.
Yeah, but listen, I mean, guys, just quickly. I mean, this is yeah. Right, so there's a lease, a head lease, which has been given, which is owned by Griff. That, I mean, I'm really sorry, guys. It's so difficult to hear. I don't know if it's us or you guys or something else. I don't know, but
Guys, is it worth, because this is
it's
quite an
really
important
difficult to
topic.
make out what's happening. But if it's a dormant company,
It keeps sounding like there's TV in the background.
I heard important topic. I didn't hear anything after that.
I'm just wondering, this is quite an important topic. Should we try and reschedule when next time in the next sort of day or two, Ed, if you're available?
I've not heard anything really.
Can we reschedule a follow-up call on this topic when everyone's got better connection?
I can't. Well, whoever's talking now, I can hear you perfectly.
The problem is, whoever was talking, you've got a time lag of about 15 seconds. Julie, can you mute your mic? Please. Cheers.
What, as in me, you mean?
No, Ed, the internet connection, for whatever reason, between yourself and Steph is not very good. Can we reschedule a call with you and Steph when you're both available, and we'll drop this topic tonight and pick it up, and then report back to everyone else when everyone's got a better internet connection?
Yeah, that's fine. The only last point that I was going to make.
Well, I can hear you perfectly. So, I mean, what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Hello.
I didn't hear that when you said the last point, Steph. I didn't hear it. Did anybody else hear the last point?
I didn't make the last point.
Ed, there's a 15-second time lag for you guys, I think. Steph, do you want to quickly make the last point?
Are we frozen again?
It probably is. Our internet's a freaking shit.
Well, we pay for it.
I know we do.
I must
I
admit,
can hear you, Paul and Steph.
I've got BT fibre optics, but Steph's freezing for me as well.
Yeah, I think we've actually just lost them, to be fair.
Yeah, honestly, I'm struggling to. I struggled last time with Paul's connection, but I've got really fast fibre optic.
Yeah,
internet here.
I think let's try and reschedule this, because it is. I know they've got a lot of points.
I can hear. Is that you speaking, Julie?
It was myself and Stu then. Yes.
Yeah. Well, just quickly, now that everybody can hear each other. Yeah, I can hear everybody. So what I'm going to say, in terms of dormant company, from my understanding, a lot of the time they're used solely to hold an asset like a property, because if you don't deal with the asset, then there's nothing to put on the balance sheet. It's a sort of common thing from what I understand. But if the company that you guys are all a director of is dormant, then it's not. It's just not. It's the factually it's not. It might be registered as such, but it isn't. So that needs to be dealt with. It's an admin thing, so that's a point to note. Deal with that, because as people were saying, you're not going to be able to open a bank account with a dormant. I'm not sure that's strictly true.
What's
actually,
important
but,
is if there's liabilities and it's a dormant company, the best thing we can do is close it and set up a limited by guarantee company, which means it's a non-profit organisation, and that's what all management of properties,
yeah, but if you
is what there should be. There is 20 years of dormant company recorded at Companies House.
yeah, well, I mean, there's various sort of structures.
You can't trade with a dormant.
Yeah, I mean, there's various sort of legal structures you can use, but if it's if right, okay, I think we're getting caught up here. It's not a dormant company. It might be registered as such, but it clearly isn't. So that it's an administrative issue. The point is, if anything is shut down, then clearly, contractually, you lose all ability to go back and unpick what's happened in the past, which seems to me to be potentially the problem. I mean, it looks to me, I don't know, I've not looked too much into it. I've just helped James when he sent stuff over. It seems that what's happened is there's been quite a lot of money being requested, and nobody really knows where it's gone. And there's various leaks, insurance issues. Binks, I believe, from what I can see, was on the board until just after the 15 years. Whereas if you shut it down, you've lost everything. You can't get it back because you've gone. A company is a separate legal entity, and if that company dies, then the legal entity dies, and you can't go, oh well, the old company, this.
Yeah.
No, but that you can go back
and shutting it down would absolve the previous directors, for example, Binks, from all wrongdoing.
Never traded old anyhow.
There is no trading. It hasn't traded. It's like having a garage and it isn't driven anywhere. There is nothing to say.
They have absolution anyhow, because during the period that they signed off the accounts, they signed off to say that it was a dormant company.
They never published accounts for 20 years. There is no record of any activity in the dormant company, apart from this year in March when we picked a CCJ up.
For what?
Other than that, we've got
we haven't found out yet. It's just come up at £3.5 grand February this year.
Right. So the right. I mean, the point is, if it's a dormant company, it's a dormant company because you're not doing any trade. If you're making decisions, I don't know what the legal standing is, but if you shut that down contractually, I'm not even sure you could, because you've got the lease with the head lease and the lease with the leaseholders. From the immediate thing you've told me, which is from half an hour ago, I can't see how you could.
But there's nothing there.
There's a lease in place between the leaseholders and Millroyd Island, and then there's a lease in place between.
Yes, but it's just the head lease that's in place.
I don't understand what you mean. Everybody's got a lease. That's why you have to pay the service charge under the lease.
Yeah, but if Mimco went and shut down.
No, the head lease says that is a lease to the management company. The head lease has nothing to the leaseholders.
Yeah, exactly. So if Mimco ceased to be.
I'm sorry, I missed that bit.
If Mimco closed down, the terms of the head lease would refer to Griff, and Griff would have 136 individual leaseholders to contact at any point that they wanted to do anything.
But it doesn't affect our right to manage. It just hasn't been set.
Does it say on the head lease that, like,
What about the head lease? It's just on the floor.
Like, does the lease for the head lease from Griff, does that specifically does the head lease from Griff specifically say that if Millroyd enter administration or cease to exist, that the leaseholders will then go back to Griff? Because that'd be an unusual setup. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it'd be unusual.
So I'm piecing together bits of the head lease.
Then you can't shut it down, really, can you? Because there's a chain.
The paperwork online, visible for everyone, the Solace case refers to Mimco as the underleasee. So reading then around terms of what an underleasee's responsibilities are, the underleasee's terms would refer back to the head lease. But my point on all this is, it's very sticky, and we need to split it into having someone looking at the company law and getting some advice from an actual maybe paid for person to just go through what exactly is the best course of action, because it is incredibly complicated. And to this point, Watsons haven't released the updated head lease, which again is referenced as being altered in 2019 when the court case was put through from Solace versus Mimco.
I think there's a lot of
things like altering leases. I mean, what you got to remember is that if a free, I just think everybody's getting caught up in one single point, and it seems like, from what James has told me, not that he said anything, he's just explained what's happened. From my perspective, what I can see is, I mean, we've literally just spent the whole time talking about this dormant company. It's an admin issue. If you want to undo it, if you remove it, then it just needs to be looked at whether what provision in the head lease does it. It doesn't necessarily need paid. I mean, you know, you're into four figures probably straight away. But the problem is that if Mimco is a dormant company, then it can't trade and it can't pay for all this advice. So I don't know who's going to pay for it. But the leaseholders won't pay. I mean, if I was a leaseholder and I was party to this particular board meeting, and from what James has told me the previous ones, I mean, I don't know. He's not said anything. He's not sort of said anything bad. He's just explained what's happened. As far as I'm concerned, it seems to me there was a head lease which was owned by somebody. It's now been sold, as in the freehold of the building. And what they've done is they've put a intermediate company in the middle, probably so they can get commissions on the insurance without it being a secret profit. For one, that's a main reason. Secondly, it absolves the freeholder from probably most of the issues. But I mean, I read the letter from Watsons very briefly, spent half an hour or something looking at an hour. I don't know. I did it as a favour. Immediately, I saw that they said they determined that Griff were not a relevant landlord for the purpose of the Building Safety Act. Now, I've not looked into it enough, but as far as I was concerned, it's any relevant landlord. Any landlord is any landlord, even a superior landlord, which means immediately they're 10 or 15 pages of advice. Do I trust any of it? Because the first thing I've read potentially is wrong, but I'm not saying it is. It potentially is wrong. So
that's the same conclusion.
All it seems to me is that you guys have been put in place to, I mean, you're all leaseholders as well, I understand. Yeah, so everybody's been put in place effectively to go, right, okay, so every year we've got costs. We need to collect money from the leaseholders to pay those costs. We need to make sure that whoever we've instructed to manage the building is, not, getting best value for money. Not necessarily best value for money, but best value for the leaseholders, which isn't always the cheapest price. Everybody's got to accept that. It might be that that somebody's going to turn up every week and do the cleaning, and for that you pay, £100 more, a quarter or something. If you're paying £2,000 more a quarter, then it becomes something's wrong here. This is a little bit negligent. Now, if it's a dormant company and you guys don't have to do that, then I mean, who does? The whole thing sort of doesn't make sense. But in terms of dumping the sort of Mimco, which is the company in the middle, I don't see that'd work. Nobody's looked into it. We shouldn't even be talking about it really until somebody said, yeah, if that company ceases to exist, then the freeholder.
Yeah, go on.
Right. Can I come in, please? I think there's two sides of it.
I'm sorry, could you say it again?
Can I come in, please, and just say something?
The
first thing is that there seems to have been a lot of, I would suggest, strange, if not illegal, activity been going on with Mimco, and we do not know what we could be liable for in that. All I can tell you is every year for 20 years they have declared it a dormant company and never registered any accounts. When I have read up on setting up a management company for the company, you do it under limited guarantee.
Absolutely, Paul, you're completely right.
We need to set up a company now to do our trading, which will be a not-for-profit.
No, Paul. I think we've all got that.
Well, I'm not saying. And what we do with Mimco is we park it to the left-hand side.
No, but right, okay. So the legal entity,
it's important this because it's about liabilities.
Yeah, right. Okay. So I think I've not. Right. Okay. So if you've done something wrong, then you would be liable potentially. If you haven't, then you wouldn't be. And what I would suggest now is you guys have been instated by the leaseholders to sort this mess out. And all I see at the moment is from this call is that everybody's sort of arguing about like sort of small things, and then we're talking about a dormant company. I mean, that should have been a 10-second call. Let's have a look at the leases and see what happens if the company disappears before talking about what happens. I mean, I think we all heard what you suggested, and perhaps that's the right way. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it to me. But if there's no provision for that company dying, then what's going to happen? Who's going to pay for everything? It needs to be looked at. But I would be focusing solely on number one. They're talking about these leaks in the roof. They seem to have been going on, and it seems to me that what happened was Binks was on the board for 15 years. Now, I don't know if you guys know much about the Latent Damage Act. When you find something, there's a long stop date, which is 15 years. It seems like he stayed on the board for 16 years to make sure nobody found any problems, then walked away. Now, if that can be proven and we can track back, then he could be in trouble potentially. But it needs to be proven.
Sorry,
for example, if there were leaks in 2017 or 2018 or whatever, and those were dealt with.
Sorry, just to cut you off there, just your info, we've already started to tackle this one with Watson's. We've already started to tackle this one with Watson's. James and I, there was a meeting earlier today, and James and I are going to be following up with this one. We've already advised Watson's officially. We want an explanation as to why nothing was claimed against the original building guarantee. So we're already on that one.
Can I just finish off what Steph and I, because Steph and I came to this from looking at the EW.
Yeah, this is what James told me.
This is where we were coming from, and we were deriving our information from the judgment given in the Solid versus Mimco case of a couple of years ago, where the landlord is referred to as Griff 051 Limited, and the tenant or the underleases is Mimco, which is MIMCL, because there is other Mimcos out there. So we are just a non-trading vehicle.
Yeah. Oh no, I get that. Yeah, on that case.
And the case was won by Solid, not because.
You're absolutely right, Paul. I lost you there, Paul.
Yeah, I was going to say the reason why Solid won the case wasn't anything to do with blaming Mimco or anything like that. It was the fact that Watson's, in coordination with the board of directors, out of the company failed to act in a reasonable manner, which is why the unfortunate expensive lease was put in place. And it was because of their lack of activity, reference the insurance, that they actually.
Yeah, it's insurance. Yeah, we know that. Yeah.
Guys, listen, I think unfortunately we haven't got as far into this one tonight as we wanted to, partly because of the bad internet connections.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Ed.
Can I just try and yeah, I can hear you fine, Stuart, but can I just quickly go through it, because it seems to me that you're all right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in. But in terms of the Solid case, I had a quick look at it. Not really well. They originally issued against Griff. They accepted that actually the landlord was Mimco, which is true. Griff had got nothing to do with it. It's, as I said, it's a sort of, I won't say clever arrangement, maybe sharp, I don't know, so that the freeholders get the benefit but nothing else, and the people sitting in the middle, you guys, unpaid directors, are potentially, as Paul seemed to be working out, potentially liable for anything. Now, if somebody's done something wrong and you guys have been advised by Watson's or the lease or the freeholders, then that's not necessarily your fault. You can only work on what you've been given. But from what I understand, the policy was 70 something. They proved that market rate was 50. If you actually look, I had a very brief look at the head lease. There's no provision for insurance in there. The under lease does actually say that Mimco are responsible for, I suppose, arranging it, procuring it. However, it must be, and this is the really important point, it must be approved by the freeholder. Now, there's a number of cases at the moment about for residential and things where if there are effectively, if you can prove that the company that you're insuring it through are a company that adhere to certain criteria, then the freeholder can't say no. Effectively, it has to be reasonable. So if if you choose an insurance company and they've got the policy that's sort of similar to the one through Lockton's or whatever it was, the freeholders can't say no if it's unreasonable not to, and they can't just say no to everything except theirs, because that would effectively be saying that they choose the insurance company. So I would say that's an unreasonable term. Effectively, I translate that as Mimco can choose, and when I say Mimco, I mean Mimco, I suppose, but that's just, everybody seems to call it Mimco. They can choose the insurance company, and as long as it's reasonable and fair cover, and the cover should be as per the lease, not anything else. As long as it's reasonable as per the lease and covers all the risks that should be insured, then that is what should be on the policy. And directors of Mimco, knowing that they have this lease, I mean, when you take on a directorship, it's not a joke. It's not something that you just do just to be important or whatever. You've got rights, responsibilities, liabilities, a duty to act in the best interest of the company and shareholders, and in this case, the leaseholders. So I would say that to break it all down, I get the dormant company thing. Perhaps it's a admin issue, I don't know. But I'd be, first of all, and Stuart, I know that you said you were already onto it, I'd just be saying, right, I want a copy of the insurance policy within 7 days, and I want to know why any of these leaks are not covered. Now, leaks potentially aren't covered, but consequential damage, it's damage, it's an insurable risk potentially. The policy might say it's not covered, in which case the policy, whoever decided to take that policy out is potentially negligent. Now, if that was the board of Mimco, then you can say that. But actually, if they were advised by Watson's, or if they were advised by Watson's or by the freeholder that this was the policy they had to take out, then in actual fact, it's not the board's fault. And from what I understand, the board effectively sat there and took advice from other people. Now, you've got to remember, this is a building. Imagine it as, well, I suppose it is, it's a load of flats. if there's the fabric of the building, which is owned by the freeholder, which reverts to the freeholder in 999 years, however long, it's their responsibility to amend the leaks. What's it got to do with the leaseholder? If you rent a property for 12 months and there's a leak in the roof, you don't amend it, the landlord does. So unless this is a full repairing and insuring lease, which it isn't, because Mimco has to do the insurance, then I don't see how the leaseholders can possibly be responsible. And if Mimco have not been given advice to get the best policy, it's somebody else's fault. And the whole thing seems to be linked up. And I would be saying, number one, to Watson, I mean, in order, I'd say number one, Watson's, we need the insurance policy, please, to see why these leaks weren't covered. Now, the thing that nobody seems to have picked up on is these leaks have been going on for a number of years. There will be a number of different policies, I would imagine, because each year they'll probably get a different company in. So how many insurance policies do you need? And that becomes a problem. So I'd look again and see if anybody knows when the first leaks started happening and what happened. Because if they're the roof, then potentially it's a roof issue. If that was the pipe work and it keeps failing, is that just what happens? Is it wear and tear? If after 15 years, do you have to replace the pipes? If it's not, and somebody can come in and say, yeah, look, it's just bad workmanship, then has Bink sat on the board, made sure nobody said anything, and then bailed out after 16 years knowing he's in the clear? I don't know. The point is, it's a toss. You've got to weigh up whether or not you've any chance of getting the money back off Binks for that or anybody else, and how much it's going to cost to litigate. But I mean, it seems to me that we're looking at sort of like a little thing like, can we get the insurance policy? That's for this year. What about the previous years? I mean, I don't know when the leaks first started, what the cause was, but it's not just the leaks. I mean, it could be, I mean, if the roof was bad and somebody inspected the roof, prior to the 15 years when Binks was on the board and nobody picked up that was potentially a latent defect, as in a faulty roof, from the build, then if nobody picked that up, why did nobody pick that up? Had they been negligent? Was it Watson's not picking it up? In which case, you'll say to Watson's, who will have their own professional indemnity insurance, well, in this year, the surveyor went round and said, this is a problem with the roof. They should have then said, that's a latent defect. It's not an insurance issue. It's a developer issue. You then go back to the developer, who will have his own insurance. And if the developer no longer exists, their insurance will pick up the tab. But it seems to me that the leaseholders have been paying for, and I've picked on one example there, paying for all these things. Nobody has really done any digging. If you start paying solicitors without anybody looking at it from above and just saying, right, okay, let's have a look at the situation. What do we know? Then, and also solicitors, if they get a smell of some money, they'll want it because that's what they do. That's their job, and you can't blame them for that. It's what they do. But if they think there's any money there, they'll take it. So I think it requires everybody to get their heads together and stop, necessarily at this stage. I mean, I'm not saying ignore the fact that it's a dormant company. That's absolutely not the thing. It needs to be dealt with, but it's more like a sort of an admin thing. If you kill a company that is a lease, which I'm not even sure will be possible at this stage, due to the fact there's a link between the freeholders, Mimco, and then the leaseholders through the middle, if you did kill that, then you would lose any opportunity because it's Mimco, and whether or not it was the previous board, and if they've done something wrong, you'd be going back to the previous board and saying, well, you did something wrong. I don't believe that any of the previous board, perhaps with Binks except, even though I don't know who he is, I don't know what he's done, it could be all wrong, but if there was a different board, if they've done something wrong, and it's on a balance of probabilities here, more, which do we think is more likely? Have they done something to evade having to pay, or have they not? Then,
Ed, quick question. Sorry to cut you off there, but I think what Paul's getting at with this is, if Mimco was to cease,
liabilities for Mimco. See, just bear with me. This is the question Paul's trying to get to, is does that then mean that the liability for the EWS1 automatically passes back to the freeholder? That's his question. That's what Paul's trying to get to.
Oh, right, got you. Right, well, as I said before, if somebody's looked at the leases and has said, okay, if Mimco dies or ceases to exist, I suppose, if Mimco dies, we'll call it, then at that point, the leases revert back to the head lease. I didn't see anything in there. It might be the lease has been badly drafted. I don't know. But in terms of the EWS1 or whatever it is, from what I understand, the lenders now are more interested in who's going to mend the damage. And so again, that goes back to the first piece of advice, which, to be fair, Watsons have come back with, but they've paid a solicitor, I guess some money, which they shouldn't be claiming off the leaseholders if it's potentially wrong. But they've effectively said that Griff are not a relevant landlord. I potentially disagree because without looking into it. But in terms of what you're asking, Stuart, will it revert back to them? I'm not sure you can actually kill Mimco without some sort of problem arising. There is the right to manage, which would potentially take out Mimco altogether, which is an option. But again, then you'd have to be looking at fraud, which is beyond reasonable doubt, I suppose, rather than contractual, because the contracting party, Mimco, trading dormant or not, which if it was registered dormant whilst Binks was doing these things, perhaps he should have registered it as a trading company. I don't know. Perhaps he's in the wrong at that point. But I mean, in terms of killing Mimco and hoping that it'll revert back to them, I'm not exactly sure that does, and I don't know whether or not people are struggling to get a remortgage due to this sort of
the key thing is a dormant company.
I'm sorry, Paul. Go on, say that again.
A dormant company, by law, is not allowed to trade in any sense.
Paul, I think
it cannot enter into contracts. It cannot enter into contracts.
Yeah, which is an interesting point, because I'm aware we have signed
Paul,
one
I think
contract.
we've got that. I think we've.
Who said that?
Paul,
guys, we have actually, as Mimco, signed a contract.
This is the point. You guys you're not dormant if you're operating. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I hear what you're saying, Paul. But it's at this point it's a bit of a moot point, because you're not dormant. It might be registered as dormant, but you're not. So next year's accounts you can't put in as dormant because you're not. Especially if you sign contracts that potentially need to go through the books. I've not looked at the dormant company regulation, the regulations around it for a long time.
I have looked at the regulations.
Yeah, I know. I'm not denying that at all. What I'm saying is, the point I'm trying to. Yeah, but the point is, I'm pretty sure that they can hold property, and if you guys are saying that you can't
hold property, they can't hold property.
Guys, listen. We're not going to resolve this tonight, especially with the bad internet connection, and we're really in danger of overrunning. But I don't want to discount the valuable advice from Ed. Can we agree that yourself, and we need Feroz involved in this as well, yourself, Ed, if he's available and willing, James, and Feroz. Feroz is available on the night time. He's in Lebanon, or he will be in a few hours' time. We can schedule a follow-up where we can try and hammer this out when we've all got a better internet connection as well. Is that doable?
Stuart, I don't want to be involved in the status of the company because it's a distraction. I'm purely focused on the EWS form and the changes that they've made, which are important to the leaseholders, because they can now self-certify and get a mortgage. a full mortgage.
I have
on the
reservations
property.
on this front, though. I've got to be honest, because I still think there's an element here of if the leaseholder self-certifies, and again, maybe Ed can correct me, if a leaseholder self-certifies, sells their apartment, and then it turns out remedial work is needed to that apartment, are they then still going to be on the hook? Are the banks and the buyer going to come back to that leaseholder with a demand for money once they've got a demand for a new balcony? And it's a bit unclear for me where that lies, but I don't think we're going to resolve that tonight.
I'll tell you this. Yeah.
Go on, Ed. Go on.
I'll tell you the situation from what I see it. Limited research again, very limited. What I would say is that somebody has to do something with the balconies, whatever that is. There's very, I mean, nobody appears to have considered whether or not painting it or spraying it with an intumescent paint. Fireproof paint is the same thing, which effectively expands when fire comes to it, and which is what when we had to do it in a building that we did 20 apartments a few years ago, and we had to spray all the steel pillars with intumescent paint so that when fire got to them, it expands and stops it catching light. I'm not saying that's an option because I'm not a surveyor, but I don't know what the options have been. But what I can say is that something will need to be done so that somebody can say this building is safe. So that is what the purpose of the form is for the mortgage lenders, because they want to know that somebody with an insurance policy has said this building is safe. Now, if you're self-certifying to say my building is safe and you've got a wooden balcony, then I don't know who's going to sign that off for you, if you can get somebody to. But if I was a bank, I'd just say I either want the EW1S or I want to know who is repairing the damage as required by the Building Safety Act. And I think the point is that what the lenders are asking for is they want to know who's responsible for repairing it. So the point would be that, firstly, are Griff a relevant landlord? If they are, which, as I said, I've only very briefly looked into it, seems to me they potentially are a relevant landlord. And if they are a relevant landlord, then if they've got, I think it's 2 million. Net worth of 2 million per relevant building. Now that doesn't, if they've got 100 buildings and they're all relevant, or sorry, 2 buildings, they're both relevant, then you're looking at 4 million. If they've got 1 building, then it's 2 million. It's relevant. It has to be a relevant building over the sort of amount. But the point is, the first start point is, in terms of what I'd have said on this call, what you guys have been discussing is insurance, but preceding the insurance, what's gone on with all the leaks? When did they first start? Are they linked? Yeah. So if you know, I mean, this sort of thing needs documenting. Somebody does a quick report on the lease on the leaks. They don't spend 6 months on it. They write some bullet points to discuss at another meeting. Next point. Is Griff a relevant landlord? Somebody needs to work out whether they are or not. I mean, I can have a quick look, I suppose, but to me it seems like they might be. If they are, you effectively write to Griff and say, we believe you're. I mean, this is the whole point. Watsons have sent 15 pages. Why didn't they just write a letter to Griff saying, dear Griff, you're a relevant landlord, you need to pay for the repairs, and then let Griff come back to them? Why waste their time? They should have sent literally a 5-line letter and said, it's you're responsible. Let them come back. Let their lawyers come back and say, no, we're not. And then you can see what you're dealing with.
This is kind of where we've evolved to now in terms of leaks, building defects.
I'm not sure. I mean,
this is kind of where we've evolved it to. So,
yeah, but I mean, do you guys have like an agenda with these things on? Just like, I don't know, 10 points? I mean,
pretty much, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. We're ploughing through each of them. Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. We're ploughing through each of them as quick as we can.
Sorry, Stuart, I missed you there. What were you saying? Sorry.
Yeah. No. I'm saying that yes, we've got. we've got our 10 points that we're looking into, and we're trying to slowly plow through them and get the information back from Watson's. I mean, I had a conversation with Watson's today, which I was hoping to get to later, but even Watson's themselves today have sort of put themselves in a difficult position, because they basically told me, oh, well, we don't know if we've looked at this before. We don't know if we've ever approached Binks regarding the building defects. We'll have to look into this for you and find out what we did and didn't advise. So I had quite a constructive but firm chat with Watson's earlier. So we're kind of getting to the points that you've mentioned. I do think, though, that I'd like to, at some point, just when there's a better connection, schedule a follow-up with Paul and Paul and Steph and yourself, because this, if possible, and we need Feroz's involvement as well, because obviously this has got impacts from the financial side and what he's looking at. But it's just that Steph's research sort of came over the weekend, and we were hoping we could box it off tonight. But what I would say is I don't want to discount the very valuable advice that you're providing, but I'm just conscious of the fact that we've only got an hour left, and we've got an awful lot of other stuff to get through as well. So is that possible? Would it be possible that you could be available for just a quick half an hour follow-up, or maybe an hour's follow-up, which we schedule for later this week with the concerned parties, and we can report back to the rest of them?
Well, I could do, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Let me
do is, when everybody's looking at stuff, rather than sort of, coming on with an idea of what should happen, like sort of, we should do this. Let's just, do you want to do it then? Yeah, you coordinate with James. I'm assuming I'm available. I don't mind doing it as a one-off. Yeah.
Cheers, that's really appreciated.
In terms of everything else, in terms of Griff and whether a relevant landlord, I just forget about Watson's. Just write straight to Griff and say, look, we believe you're a relevant landlord. I mean, let them come back. But the one problem you've got here is, and I'll tell you in advance, they won't be coming back in 2 days. So you need to say, look, we are in a precarious situation. We believe you're a relevant landlord. So it's up to you to do the repairs. Don't even look into it. Just tell them that. Then they'll come back and say why they're not. But you need to find some way of encouraging them to make that really quick, because otherwise you're going to be sitting there for however long waiting for them. That's how I'd say that.
I think we've got that now, because we actually have
James has just come back, and he's suggested, we'll say, well, look, there's an insurance policy. You tell us whether you're a relevant landlord. Yeah. If what? Sorry, say that again, Stuart.
I said, I think. Well, now we've actually been able this week to facilitate making more of an inroad with Griff and Schroders. We've been able to facilitate making more of an inroad with Griff and Schroders this week. We now actually have a point of contact there, which came about today. We've only been advised that today, but we have a name and contact details. So believe me, something will be going off. I'm going to work with James to construct a quite sternly worded legal proof letter.
Schroders, what? As in the...
Yeah, Schroders administer Griff.
Yeah.
Which is also then in turn administered by HSBC. Yeah. So we're trying multiple prongs of attack where by
right,
HSBC,
yeah, I was going to say, so effectively Griff is just an investment bank.
Yeah, essentially it's ground rent investment fund. So yeah, we've now got a designated point of contact that we can go to.
Home ground, yeah, I know home ground. They're managing agents for the freehold as well.
Yeah, but what I didn't realise is that HSBC are connected to this.
Yeah, I mean,
HSBC
obviously for them,
managing it for Schroders.
There's no way they want to have to pay out even 1p. They don't want. Yeah, well, the concern with that is the backing behind it. But I mean, James and I were at a meeting today where it was effectively who we were discussing. They're effectively going after. Well, I won't go into it, but they're going into sort of it's difficult to explain. Like illegal commissions, but not in this. I won't say anything more than that. But I mean, effectively, because of the way this is set up, Griff have the ability to use their own brokers and network to. I'm not saying they are. It might not be. They might just be getting a really bad deal. I don't know, to get sort of commissions through the insurance. Now, this is that they're always one-offs, because I mean, yeah, Griff will have plenty of buildings, but there's so many different freeholders. They all do it in different ways. But the point is, it's a recognised thing. So when we're speaking to, or when you guys, should I say, are speaking to Griff or Schroders or HSBC, the only thing they're thinking is, we don't want any liability and we don't want to lose our insurance policy. When you're speaking to Watsons, they might have said to Watsons, don't worry, once we get these guys shut down, you'll be back in again or whatever, so help us. Watsons might be thinking that, they're under the gun and, somebody's going to come back for them and say, why are you paying this much insurance? Who said it's good? Why have you advised this to the board? Why didn't you report back that the surveyor said there was a problem with the roof that was, from when it was built? Watsons are potentially scared. They're not going to obviously admit it. It'd be very foolhardy to do that. Same with Griff. Everybody that you're speaking to is trying to remove the liability from themselves and put it onto Mimco, or the low-hanging fruit, which is the leaseholders. The leaseholders, 136 apartments, are, I suppose, that it's difficult. But and you guys, you're sort of, what's the word? You're charged with acting for the leaseholders, and they know that you're not solicitors. And obviously, I know that we discussed paying a solicitor to do something, but I mean, you guys can't do that if you're dormant. And if you're saying you're not dormant, then you have to admit you're not dormant. So it's, you can't have it both ways.
We can get around that problem.
That looking from a high level, Stuart already has said that you've looked at, speak to Griff. I'd be probably just saying, go on, sorry, say that again, Stuart.
We can get round that problem of engaging a lawyer. We simply tell Watsons we've engaged a lawyer, and as the bills come in, we simply pass them on to Watsons for Watsons to pay.
Hi.
That's how everything else works in the building, essentially. So I don't see why appointing a lawyer would be any different.
I see what you're saying. If I was a leaseholder, I'd have said, well, yeah. I mean, there's an argument to say that perhaps that's the thing to do. The problem is, I think for a lawyer to look at all this stuff, you might be looking at, I would say, probably 20,000 quid to properly deal with it. If you've got somebody decent, I'm not talking about a high street firm that does sort of conveyancing and stuff. You'd need somebody good. I'm not sure how you'd recover it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is. I know. You can easily get that. And I don't disbelieve you. What I'm trying to say, I didn't want to get too high because it makes me sound like I'm trying to scare you. But you said it yourself, Stuart.
Yeah, you keep saying that point.
Yes, Paul. Go on.
As a dormant company, we are not allowed to enter into any contract.
However, in the altered lease, it does say that Griff have written, because I'm reading the alteration.
We've got that, Paul.
That Mimco is responsible for all of the costings attributed to Griff as agreed in the head lease.
Griff is just a liability.
And forfeiting the head lease is probably the
right. Well, if there's a lease being agreed, an amendment to the leaseholders, yeah. But just just quickly there, Steph. If Griff have done a deal with Mimco, then the leaseholders should also be a party. I mean, for example, if Griff, it doesn't matter what they've done, but they've altered something. If they could have actually said this, they could have said from now on the leaseholders have to pay me to buy a packet of chocolate every week. You know, it doesn't matter what it is, whatever they've altered, unless the leaseholders agree, they can't. They've granted a lease, and it would be derogation of grant if you didn't do that. You know, the lease is the lease, and it's between each of the 136 or how many apartments there are. I think it's different. I think there's two setups, which again is an odd thing. But you can't just change something. You know, the lease has been granted. You can't change the lease unless there's provision in the lease to change. But that would be an agreement to make an agreement, which is as in my mind, back from law college, that's unenforceable. So if they've altered something, it would be an administrative issue, I would say. If it's not administrative and it's to the detriment of the leaseholders, then potentially, I mean, it might be between Griff and Mimco, but if that affects the leaseholders, they can't just do it. It's like, for example, granting a 999-year lease, 6 years later going, I've changed my mind, it's 2 years. You can't say, oh, well, it's not that bad. It doesn't matter if it's that bad. You can't do it. You can't change. You can't introduce new terms into a contract. It's the first rule of contract law. So whatever the lease says is the lease. If they want to change it, fine, but it's not going to be enforceable against the leaseholders. They can just go, no, sorry, not interested. So I don't know what the amendments are or how it's happened or whether or not Mimco agreed that the leaseholders were happy with it, but you can't, you know, if you offer to pay somebody 20 quid to wash your car, they wash it and go, yeah, I want 100 now. You just go, no, wouldn't you? That's effectively, if it's a detrimental alteration, it can't happen. And these are sort of basic things that somebody needs to look over. I'm not sure why it was altered or whether or not it was just an administrative thing to clarify some wording which was always agreed, or to sort of can't think of the word, harmonise the sort of head lease, sublease arrangement and the agreement with the leaseholders. But I mean, what Steph, do you know what these amendments are and why?
A copy here.
Yes, I have a copy of the amended lease details.
Came through today.
It was variations to the lease made in
2009.
2009.
May.
And then there's a second variation that was done that we've not been able to track yet, which is the one that's been done when it was Griff.
Steph, Paul, Ed, James, honestly, we need to take this offline. We need to arrange follow-up and take it offline. Otherwise, we're not going to get anything else. I think let's do what we said before. Let's arrange a follow-up.
Can I just say a quick question?
Sorry, Carl, go on.
In 2000,
follow-up is perfect.
In 2009, the
okay, good.
The freehold was sold to
all right,
Gala
Stuart,
Unit.
Sorry.
Stu?
Yeah, carry on, Carl. James and Ed. Unfortunately, there's a time lag, I think.
Right.
Carry on, Carl.
I was just saying.
So it was just an assignment, was it?
Sorry, what was an assignment?
No, go on, Carl. What were you saying?
I was just saying in 2009, which marries up to the information Stephanie was saying, that's when the freehold was sold by the developer to Gala Unity, who were the first to own the freehold. That then went to Braemar, and then from Braemar, Rendall and Rickner / Griff 051. So that just explains from 2009 to present. I'll mute myself now.
Thanks, Carl. Listen, I genuinely do want to get Ed's continued input, but I think we need to take it offline, as we said before, and we'll organise a follow-up.
Oh, okay. So effectively, yeah. Stuart, you're right. Stuart, you're right.
Cheers, thanks.
Yeah. Stuart, you're right.
I'll coordinate with James on that.
Right, okay. So Go on, what's the next thing? If anything, James has disappeared. So.
Oh right, okay. Well, you can be the stand-in for James then. Next on the agenda was appointment of chairperson.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to be chairperson?
You're going to have to wait for James to come back, aren't you, if he's disappeared?
I've just got to pop out myself for a sec. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
You, Stuart, Julie, James?
I'm not willing to do it for a number of reasons.
Let me just see that. I can't actually see him. I mean, I can't actually see it. I'm really sorry, guys.
Can we come back to that then when he's back?
Let's come back to that. We've also got
James to be chairperson. I mean, I don't know if he's not here, but he'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes,
we'll revisit chairman and company secretary. Okay, has everyone had a chance to have a look at the minutes and the breakdown of responsibilities? Because there was a previous
I think the company secretary is there a yeah.
Sorry, Ed, go on. Ed, sorry, go on.
Sorry. In terms of the company secretary, is there a particular reason why you'd appoint a secretary, or would you just? Yeah, is there a reason that you'd appoint a company secretary, or would you not just allocate them? I mean, is there a particular function they do? I mean, if you have
basically
like a sort of maybe like an online agenda, you just fill it out as you go along, or is it just minute taking? Is it?
No, the company secretary was a function administered by Watson's for which they were charging £800 a year. It's basically just the filing of the accounts, is my understanding. We decided to take that away from them and do it ourselves. Unofficially, there was a little bit extra added to that role, including minute taking and things like that.
Yeah. This. Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that, I mean, a company secretary is not needed necessarily. If somebody wants to take the minutes, I mean, I would say, in terms of filing accounts, filing confirmation statement, filing changes of address, directors, etc., etc. I mean, it's not like it used to be. It's getting the authentication code, logging in, pressing a few buttons, and it's done. The accounts would be prepared by the accountant, and they'd submit them through their sort of system, I guess. I wouldn't. I'm only speaking from my perspective. I wouldn't see there's any need for a company secretary unless there's a specific purpose for it. But that would just sort of take out, it's another administration of appointing administration. But I don't know, a specific function where they're not a director and doing something specific, then yeah, perhaps. But I don't know. I mean,
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
We'll come back to the appointment of those two positions, I guess, when James is back anyway. Has everyone had a chance to look at the revised breakdown of responsibilities?
Missed that, guys. I think there's a bit of a delay again.
I would say we'll come back to the company secretary and chairman when James is back, because obviously he may want to do one of the roles.
Right, James is back. I'm just going to pop him on now. Okay, guys.
Well, all right. Cheers, Ed. Thanks. James, very quickly now you're back. There is a bit of a time lag, I think, but we are discussing appointment of a chair.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah. All right. What do we? I mean, can we not just have a Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, James.
Hello.
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 We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, James.
Go on, nearer. Hello. Yeah, I mean, why don't we just have a revolving chair so there's no like issue with? Yeah, why don't we just have a revolving chair? Why don't we just have a revolving chair? So we can just go around and then
but I don't know if
week
the
someone
articles
else
allow
gets
it.
the additional vote, so we don't have this issue with, well, someone, dare I say it, like the previous chair that didn't really know what they were talking about. I don't know. I haven't read it. I mean, again,
I don't know if the articles allow it.
can we not, like, the directors? Can we not decide? Don't know. Again, that.
Can we appoint someone short term?
When you say you don't know if they do we know they don't?
I'm unclear either way. I haven't read anything in there that supports, because I think other people have suggested it as well. But I haven't read anything in there that supports a rolling chair. I haven't read anything that bans it either.
I mean, right. Well, have you seen it? Have you seen anything that stops? Well, if you haven't seen anything that doesn't support it, then it probably isn't an issue. But in any event, I mean, you know, we had an issue before with the company secretary that was voted, and no one seemed to care. But now we're talking about a rolling chair to make it even. And then, you know, there certainly wasn't anything in the previous. Okay, thanks. There certainly wasn't anything in the that allowed the secretary to vote, but no one seemed to object to that before. So if there's nothing that doesn't support it, I suggest that we have a rolling chair. So there's nothing that doesn't not support it, should I say, or whatever it is.
This one while we have a chance to just all revisit the article, just to be sure. And if there's nothing in there, then I'm all for seconding that motion of a rolling chair. And we can define the periods if that's suitable. If that's not suitable, then we'll have to revisit it. Chairperson, company secretary.
Right, brilliant.
The company must have a company secretary.
All right.
I'm saying that only because I'm reading the Articles of Association.
Well,
and
I got the last wind of that. I mean, where does it state that?
It's point 38 of the Articles of Association. The company must have a secretary who will be appointed by the board on whatever term the board thinks fit. If there is no secretarial capability of acting, anything required or authorised to be done by or to the secretary may be done by any of the directors, authorised generally or specifically for that purpose by the board.
Right,
the company must have a secretary.
So it says the directors can act as that. Is that what it says?
If there is no secretary capable of acting, required or
that last bit sounded a bit different.
By the directors.
Say again what the last bit said.
It says, if there is no secretary capable of acting, anything required or authorised to be done by or to the secretary may be done by any director authorised.
Yeah, don't need.
Yeah.
But it says the company must have one, as the first line of that statement.
Right, so that means we don't need a secretary. Right, all right. I mean, again, you know, these statements are kind of made, and
I'm reading the.
Just read it to me again. I mean, look, I'll tell you what. Send me an email, and I'll come back on it tomorrow if you want. I'll get you some more free legal advice.
I don't. I really do, but it does say that.
Right, just send me. If you send me an email, I'll come back to it.
I'll send you.
Right, well, let's not vote on it tonight because obviously there's lots of things that are made statements, and then the next day we find it's not quite the same. Well, we don't need to vote on it tonight, do we?
I'm not that forced.
Right, send it me over, and I'll come back to you with some advice tomorrow.
Stu, are we moving on to the next point, please?
Right, send it over and I'll come back with some advice tomorrow.
Sorry, guys, I was talking then and I didn't realise
Well,
I was on mute.
if we don't need one, then we don't need one, do we? It's easy then, isn't it? We don't have to end up with-
Okay, so yeah, let's agree to stick a pin in those two items, Chairman and Secretary. Paul, if you can send stuff across, we'll all have a look as well. And again, we'll rely on James for some free legal advice, and we'll take it from there. As everyone had a chance to look at the assigned responsibilities, there have been a few changes from the loose one that was banded around before. Is everyone happy with that? And can we consider that that's now how we're going to go forward?
Is this the simplified version you've sent over, Stu?
This is item 1.7 on the agenda.
I've got to be honest now. What are they? Let's have a look.
Okay, so admin, Julie Hickling, business plan, Paul Taylor with support from SL. Chairperson, scrap for now. Company secretary, scrap for now. Comms and emails, we need to come back to that one. Contracts, Ron Ely and Sally Pegg. EWS1, Paul Taylor and James Metcalf. Limited support from SL and others as needed. Carl, can you mute yourself?
Yes.
Thank you, Carl. Sorry for that. So EWS1, Paul Taylor and James Metcalf, limited support from SL and others as needed. Finance and accounts for Oz. Insurance, James Metcalf. Legal support, James Metcalf. Support from PT. SL to run with introduction aspects with DHC Beechcroft and hand over to JM as soon as possible. Leisure facilities, Carl Lawson. Maintenance issues, Ron Ely and Carl Lawson. Support from others as needed. Management agents, Sally Pegg and Carl Lawson. James, because you've sort of been reallocated a lot of the legal stuff for obvious reasons, it makes sense that there's too much for you to do. So we propose putting Sally and Carl on that with support from myself and support from you as and when needed. Due diligence by Julie Hickling on that one. Section 20 dispensation kind of unfortunately comes under JM because again, the legal aspect.
With what, sorry, what element?
Sorry, say again, James? James, sorry, say again?
Why, unfortunately? I don't. So you
because
say
I'm
unfortunately?
No, I'm conscious of there's an awful lot that's been allocated to you.
In what sense, unfortunately, sorry?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any offense by that. Yeah, James, I didn't mean any offense by that. When I said unfortunately, I mean because I'm aware that there's an awful lot of stuff that's legal related, which we've reallocated to yourself. Well, so I don't want to. When I say unfortunately,
listen. Do you know what? No. And I don't mind. Listen. And I appreciate that, and I hope I'll be. It isn't. What's a massive workload is if I'm spending loads of time sort of saying stuff, and then it's a bit, it comes back a little bit hard work at times. I mean, I thought I've been doing a bit of that anyway.
You have been.
But I am, it is hard work and draining at times and etc. But I mean, as long as you understand that I might get a bit short at times. Sorry, nothing. Yeah, I may get a bit short at times because all of this is going on and a bit stressed, and everyone understands that I'm actually really, really trying.
No,
for everybody.
I think everyone
really
does
do my best
that,
to get everything. This huge issue and burden to some extent that we've all got. But as I say.
So yeah, don't be offended by the word unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, just keep reading through it and see what we can.
Read it together.
Let's not worry about how much is on me at the moment, and then we can. Because I think some of these things aren't as difficult as you might seem. No, I'm not. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay, let's move on to item 1.8. So just to confirm, is everyone happy with those assigned responsibilities?
Yeah.
What's next?
Yep.
Julie, you're happy? You haven't confirmed. Julie? Julie.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm here. It just says, it sort of says admin. It's not detailed in any way.
Yeah, I was kind of going to get to that a little bit later on if we had time, but the admin is basically.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, I can cover it off quickly now. When we say admin, there's certain letters that need to be sent. There's certain letters that need to be sent out, and things like that, which for various reasons. I mean, certainly for me, it's not really practical me doing that aspect because where I am. But there are certain letters that need to go out, little things like that. Perhaps some administration of the email account, which everyone should now be putting the Mimco email address into copy until we sort out our actual individual Mimco emails, just so that there's somebody that can keep an eye on things and just occasionally chase up if they haven't seen a reply to something. That kind of admin, a little bit of admin, a little bit of policing, if that makes sense. I'm happy to kind of refine that a bit further on as we go, but in principle, based on what I've discussed, are you happy to take on that role?
Yeah, that's fine, Stu.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Thank you, Julie. Right, urgent miscellaneous pending items. Oh, sorry, no, I tell a lie. 1.8, urgent correspondence. Okay, we've received a letter this week.
Just when we're saying, sorry, Stu, just quickly before, Stu, just quickly before, when you say, Stu, quickly before, Stu, hello?
Yeah, James,
hello?
The floor's yours. Go on. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Hello? Oh, right, yeah, sorry, I was just saying, just so I'm kind of clear. Yeah, can you hear me, yeah? Right, so in terms of when you say responsibilities as well, I might be calling on while I'm helping with advice and hello? 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 Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
James, we can all hear you. There is a 15-second time lag, which means we're inadvertently talking over each other. Just keep talking. Just keep talking.
Hello? Hello? All right. Okay. The only thing I would say in terms of you've been speaking to, or like the solicitor, our solicitor, I believe, in regards to Jones' case and stuff, I'd say I'd leave that with you because obviously I've got all of this and I'll help give some support on this as well. But obviously I've got a lot on and you have been ringing up a lot of the solicitors, so we can work on this together as well. Because obviously there's, dealing with the solicitors and making sure they're dealt with in the right way, but as well, you're dealing with elements of that already. You've already got that. You're already in contact. So I would say elements of it, when you say responsibility, it's not my responsibility, it's all our responsibility. But obviously I'll help take, areas of this. It's not just all being passed off on me, so to speak, because
you're
already
that's
dealing
fine,
with
James.
certain things.
That's why in the minutes I have put supported by, and I'm happy to continue running with the DHC Beechcroft thing until such time as it starts to get very, very serious when they do properly engage with us, which looks like they are doing now. But I'm happy to keep running with that for now because I've got a personal preference to get that resolved as quick as possible. So, okay, we can move on from that urgent correspondence.
Sorry, who are? Right, I don't know. All right.
Sorry, James, say again. James, say again.
Say again.
You started to say something and then you stopped.
Urgent correspondence, go on.
Urgent correspondence, okay. Okay, we've received a letter this week in relation to a claim from the leaseholder of apartment 102 regarding the illegal forced entry.
I'm just waiting for your urgent correspondence, go on.
I have chased up today. Well, I sent an email as soon as we got that to Watson's asking for clarification of what the hell happened exactly, supporting evidence from them, and who authorised it. I haven't had a written reply. That is to come from Ian O'Mont. Ian is on leave this week. I had a conversation with James Thompson earlier today James says that he can tell me the answers. He can't provide any of the evidence to support it. It's got to come from Ian. And we won't get that until Ian's back. But the gist of what he told me is that as far as Watsons are concerned, the entry was legal. We can question that to high heaven, and I'm sure we all will. He's adamant that there was no theft and that the police are not pursuing that as an actual crime at the moment. Again, this is what he's telling me. I'm not taking sides on this at all. If anything, I think that they did do it wrong, and I've no problem believing that a torch did disappear. The point is, there's a claim letter gone in for £700 something payable to Joan from Mimco, not including legal fees associated with that letter. So we could be talking about 1,000 in total. I'm very conflicted on this because I don't like the thought of just willy-nilly signing off £1,000, but I think she's been through enough, and I'm inclined to say, providing we make it clear this is a for lack of a better word, a gesture of good faith, and it doesn't in any way prejudice ongoing cases or liability, I'm inclined to say that we actually need to bite the bullet on this, especially if what Thompson told me is true, that the previous board authorised him to kick that door in. But again, I've got no proof other than James's word. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts on this are, but we need to action it very, very quickly, or at least send a courteous holding message.
We need it in writing, things confirming what's being done by who's authorised stuff. Once we've got it in writing, we need to make a decision. I think we need to make it clear to Joan that we are looking into this and we take it seriously, but we don't want to jeopardise the insurance claim for everybody else.
I don't think we make it clear to Joan. I think we have to reply to a solicitor, and I do think they're valid points. But I've got to be honest, this is one I don't want to touch with a barge pole because I'm really conflicted on it. I'm really conflicted on it because I saw the heartache.
We just need to make sure that there's accountability from whoever's saying who did what, because obviously we're third party to it, but we're also now the board of directors for Mimco, so we just need to make sure that.
Hang on. So just quickly.
We can hear you, James. Go on.
What's happened? So you're saying there's a claim in by Joan regards the illegal entry facilitated or agreed by Watson's. So there's a claim coming from Joan regards someone illegally breaking into a property, which is Watson's. Is that what you're saying?
Everyone can review the paperwork. I sent it on WhatsApp. It's only photographs because my scanner's not working, but everyone on the Mimco director's WhatsApp that's set up has a copy to view at their own leisure, and then we can start commenting further.
I think in light of the fact probably most people haven't had a chance to read it, unfortunately we'll have to stick a pin in that one. James, I'll touch base with you later this week. We probably need to draft an appropriate response, even as a courteous holding one just for a solicitor.
What's the claim for then?
The claim is for stolen items, replacement lock, loss of income. All in all, the claim total is about £750 plus legal fees.
Is it not? Is a claim against us? But
the claim is against us.
Claim against us, is it?
Yeah, the claim is against us.
But we don't trade.
The claim's about the board of directors.
Directors authorised it, which again we need.
But who did it?
It's historic. It's 2022. It's before our tenure.
Trade though. I mean,
We're not allowed to trade. We're not allowed to enter contracts.
Yeah. Yep.
Legally.
Let's stick a pin in this one. James.
Well, I mean, again, we could join Watson's in the.
Sorry, James. Go on.
Price, we are trading, Paul. We have been doing so.
We've traded for 20 years, but we
urgently need to sort that out, don't we? Because it's.
James, when are you back?
Yeah, all right, move on from that then, yeah.
James, when are you back?
Well, Well, we've had accounts go in, so it's clear that we have been trading.
No, James, we've never submitted accounts.
Not tonight, by the
ever.
looks of things. I'm back tomorrow.
Essentially, what we've got is Watson's in place, where our management agent. They're essentially like a vessel for us. That's my understanding at present.
There's been no account submitted.
Ever. What the hell we were approving? Have you got a copy of it, James?
Well, I tell you what. For us, he's going to have an absolute field day, then, isn't he?
Let's stick a pin in the accounts question, because we keep coming back to whether we're a dormant company and we're not moving on to other issues.
Well, for us, he'll have a field day then, won't he? I mean, I would have thought that'd be assigned for us anyway, if he, you know, because that's his area of expertise.
It is assigned for us. Let's stick a pin in this one until everyone's had a chance to review the demand from Joan. James, you and I will touch base later this week. We'll formulate an appropriate reply. The next one is the return letter from Schroders. Julie, I'll touch base with you tomorrow at some point, if that's okay. I've got contact details now for people at Schroders and Griff and another address. I'll touch base with you. We'll work together at some point on a correspondence that we can get sent by both email and post, if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, thanks, Julie. The next topic is the reply from the Forum of Board of Directors and the next steps. I think the softly approach has obviously not worked. We've slowly escalated that approach. There was the letter that we sent to them. We've had the reply basically telling us to Foxtrot Oscar they're not interested. They'll only communicate via, Mont with us, and are very limited in what they're willing to discuss. I think the next action is a sternly worded letter before action. James, I think I'm going to sling this one over to me and you to work together on compiling that letter at some point this week and getting that off. Obviously, Julie will include you in that.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. All right.
Urgent miscellaneous pending items, appointment of accountant. Can't do anything on that tonight because Feroz has been called away on an emergency business. Bank account reserve fund and normal payments. Well, we can't do anything on that in light of our, God forbid I say these words, dormant company status. DHC Beechcroft feedback. DHC Beechcroft, having escalated this so many times to so many senior managers and directors of their company, I finally got that silly wench to reply to us. She's going to be updating us this week with urgent needed action in relation to the Blakey case. I am on pins and needles waiting for her feedback. If I haven't heard anything by Wednesday, I now have the silly wench's number. She will be getting a telephone call. So I'll follow up on that one. Appointment of general legal advice. We are in a position now where we simply need legal advice. We can't carry on dicking around like we've done. I've made some calls during this week, which takes us on to the next point about appointment of an EWS1 solicitor. And to be honest, I've racked up a £300 phone bill. I can't do it. I need to pass those two over to someone in country. I can't afford that kind of phone bill. So I'm going to ask Paul if you can run with that and pick up where I've left off with the EWS1 solicitors and appointment of a general lawyer just for some general legal advice. No, do that in conjunction with James and Ed.
Got EWS1, but I can't get involved in the general lawyer. That needs to be wider than me, and I really haven't got the time to do anything other than EWS1.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Sorry guys, can I interrupt you? I'm going to have to leave now, I'm afraid. I know you've got a few more things to cover, but I'm going to have to leave. Okay.
All right. Cheers, Sally.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Okay. Appointment of a general lawyer. We maybe get some feedback from Ed on that. I think Joan did provide somebody somewhere with a list of potential solicitors we could approach. It might be worth reaching out to them. But we do need to seriously look at that. James, I suggest you and I have a conversation offline about that.
Stuart, how close are we to appointing a management agent? Because they were the people who would probably have a solicitor's bank that they are happy to work with.
We're about 8 weeks away, realistically. By the time they've done all the costings, it's gone to a tender process, and we're down to the final 5. We're about 8 weeks away, I would estimate.
Right.
Okay. We don't have that time. We just don't. There's two
Right.
pending questions. Julie, I might, if it's okay with you, also contact you or Ron in regard to this, in case you have any.
I mean, again, we've got a.
Go on, James. James, it's okay. When you butt in, just keep talking, because the time lag means that just keep talking. We'll accommodate you. Just keep talking.
Well, I was saying that. I mean, I prefer not to. I was just going to say it. Oh, let's just move on. I was going to suggest something there. We'll have to deal with it another way, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
you and I will touch base on it then,
Sorry.
and maybe involve other people as we need to. Ongoing minutes of meeting issues and final agreed solution. Can we, doing the minutes is time consuming for anyone, and we don't have the resources to do them, even with Julie on board. Can we just rely on the transcripts and the videos as a short-term measure until we get more stabilized? We've lost 2 weeks essentially, and the minutes was killing me and Jane doing them. Software, yeah.
Software.
I mean, I'm perfectly happy with the transcript, but if someone can recommend the software, let's do that. Let's do that. Urgent needed leaseholder update. I've got to admit, I don't feel that I'm comfortable at the moment engaging with leaseholders.
Check. Yeah, all right.
And I'm not being snobby when I say that. I'm not being belittling them in any way or anything like that. I just feel a little bit kind of. I just feel like I need to take a step back from direct engagement with leaseholders, because it's been quite intense for myself over the past couple of weeks with leaseholder requests and so on. So I just feel like I feel like that's distracting me from other things. I don't know who's willing to maybe pick that up and start formulating a letter. I think Sally might be a good person because she's done it previously, possibly with support from Julie and Ron. But again, we might have to box that off later on this week. Confirmation of WPM audit, because Feroz has been called away. That's now been pushed back until the 21st or the 19th. I'm trying to schedule Zia Saeed's availability as well to coincide with Feroz's, but there's nothing we can do until the 21st. A lengthy email went to them today with the leasehold, with the Millroyd, with our new MIMCO email address and copy that basically outlines the big ticket items that we're doing the full audit on. It's quite a comprehensive list, and I'm pretty sure we're going to find lots of discrepancies. That's underway. There's nothing to worry about on that front. WPM official notification of engagement of replacement gardening services. We touched on it earlier. I believe that they should be in contact, if not already, very quickly. Security service provider. Lovely conversation I had with James Thompson this morning, followed by the email to Ron, where Alarm Guys have basically said, Foxtrot Oscar, we're not interested in helping Millroyd Mill at all. We're going to charge you and screw you for every little thing we can, just because you plan on getting rid of us. Well, I'm sorry, but you've actually kind of shot yourself in the foot by saying that in my book. So, Ron, I think if you could expedite your efforts to get us to a 3-quote scenario.
Yeah, I've been in contact with a company called eFire today. They're based in Featherstone. I'm actually meeting a guy on site tomorrow, a guy called Tony. They specifically do fire, but they have a sister company that does CCTV and door access, who are based in Bradford. So that investigation's ongoing. And interestingly, I spoke to a guy when I was looking, for these alarm peoples and things, who came under the heading of ADT. And the actual address was Millroyd Mill, Brighouse. And on investigating, and I got in touch with this guy, a gentleman called Dan, and he used to live at the mill, and he understood perfectly the dire situation of the CCTV and alarm business. And he was quite, once I explained who I was, he was quite enthusiastic about getting back to me with this. Now, ADT, as you all know, one of the biggest companies going, but it's just a case of getting a quote from them. Now, he was going to get back to me regarding the fire and CCTV and door access again. So I'm waiting of those two at the moment. But like I say, I've got a site visit tomorrow with a guy called Tony from this eFire. They seem quite a comprehensive company and capable, all accredited and everything. So until I've met Tony tomorrow, you probably heard me say I've got a meeting at site tomorrow. I can't come back with any further information on that. But we should get the price comparison, which is what we're after, and then that will give us 2 quotations. And if the other people aren't willing to come back to us, well, you could just write them out of the picture saying that they're too expensive and they don't want to commit themselves.
The procurement policy that Feroz and I are working on does have provisions for bypassing a 2-3 quote requirement. We put provisions in there for a single source justification if needed. So it's not something that's completely unworkable, but if we could get 3 quotes, that would be good. Julie, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, there is actually another company that Terry Wilson recommended. I think, I don't know whether I spoke to you about it, Ron, or not. I can't remember now. A while ago. I don't know whether it was before the AGM actually, or just after. And Terry suggested a company, and another local-ish company, sort of Home Firth area. And I spoke to the guy there, and he said he would be willing to come out. And they do CCTV. They also do the electric gates in with their sort of services. So I could touch back again with him, Ron, or if you'd like to touch base with him, it's up to you. Either I can just carry on with that with you, Ron, if you like.
Just give me the details. I'll get in touch with them. But in addition to these people that I've just mentioned, I had a meeting on site with a very, very local company, and they've given us, which I forwarded. I think I forwarded all those prices, haven't I? And they seem really, really good. But like I say, we'll have to see what these other prices come in to compare with them. Yeah. But I think
it's an extra. If it's an extra as a comparison, it's good, isn't it? You get an idea then.
Yeah. So that's
I'll send it to you.
So there's plenty of investigation work going on regarding the alarm CCTV fire. I was speaking to Cathedral Hygiene today with respect to whether they would let us adopt all the equipment that they've got there for a small fee, but it's not their company policy to do that, and so they'll be taking all their gear out on the 16th of this month. So I think Carl, I'm not quite sure, had his finger on some soap dispensers and possibly a bin for the ladies and thing in the ladies' room.
Can I just wade in on this one? Do we need to consider revoking that decision regarding Cathedral Hygiene? Because there's this ongoing issue about whether we're going to generate 7 kilos of...
The cleaners don't believe that the female hygiene bins are anywhere near that capacity, so it is potentially an option to continue this route. The issue comes with the initial outlay, because we will have to buy 2 commercial standard air fresheners to avoid theft of like just a domestic one, and the refills, but the refills should last 1.5 years before need reordering, and that's one inventory. We're looking at a few hundred, less than 500, and I believe I can get about 15% discount. The soap dispensers Nick Jordan had already got, so he's able to still provide them as far as I'm aware. I'll double check with him. And then the only other thing is the 2 female hygiene bins. So I'll just send through an email to everyone with my proposed products and see if we can get the okay and get them ordered ASAP. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, that's fine. But just remind me, what was the actual cost of Cathedral Hygiene, and what saving have we made?
I think they were about 50. I think they're about 50 quid a month, which doesn't seem a lot, but it's 600 quid a year. Essentially, that can, once the initial outlay is done, we can then filter that through to the cleaners. Probably less than 12.
Who's the contract with?
The contract were with Cathedral Hygiene.
And who's the other party?
Are you meaning who pays who?
No, I mean Mimco legally, until we become a trading entity.
It's all paid for by Watsons.
Watsons are essentially a vessel for Mimco. That's what Watsons facilitate for us.
Yes, so it's Watsons who'll be entering into those contracts.
But yeah, essentially. But what it is Watson's under our instruction would be cancelling that contract, or we already have cancelled that contract on our behalf. So then Cathedral Hygiene have then said, if I'm right, Ron, that the termination of contract is complete and they will be collecting their products on the 16th.
Yeah, the account's suspended, and you're quite right, the 16th.
Okay, so then we need to be in place because we don't want to fall flat on his face by not having females with the correct products in the washrooms. We also want to make sure we have the right standard of things to avoid theft, because sadly, if Bogrel gets stolen, we don't want air fresheners being stolen too. So we need to make sure it's a secure unit. All right, I'm going back on mute.
Ron, Carl, can you two run with that one?
Yep.
Cheers, guys. We seem to have lost James as we get to his outstanding items. Well, I think we've largely addressed them anyway. The minutes of the meetings, just for Julie's benefit, Jane and myself predominantly, and I think at one point she even approached you for your assistance on the minutes. We were doing the minutes, we were doing them quite thorough, but it didn't, for whatever reason, James wasn't happy with them. So we've not been able to strike an even balance on what we do or don't do going forward. Obviously, based on the conversation tonight, he's going to go and explore some software options. Fine, we'll leave that with James. Item 2.2. Chris Sullivan has withdrawn his offer of providing support and guidance for the board of directors and concerned leaseholders following the open session meeting. He felt that the open session meeting was a little bit too tense for him to be effective. He said that he is willing to revisit it if the relationship improves over the next few weeks and months. Julie, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, going back to 1.9, there was one missed, directors' insurance feedback.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, okay, so the directors' insurance feedback, they will not cover us in any claims against the former directors, because essentially they would be facilitating a lawsuit against themselves that they would ultimately be paying for. It kind of makes sense when you think about it. They will not provide us legal advice in relation to any ongoing cases, i.e. the Blakey case or EWS1 or anything else. That's beyond the remit of the director's insurance, the director's liability insurance. The pending question that we have remaining with them now is if anyone puts a claim in relation to the former directors where Carl stands given the fact of his exclusion. I have sent a number of chasers. I've included, as I always do, the company secretary old and new emails into all the correspondence. So that's pretty much where we're up to.
Am I able to get, obviously,
I'm glad you asked, my dear. Oh yes, oh yes. You can have that password with joy.
Thank you.
In terms of administering that email, what I've been doing is I've sort of gone through it to have a look. Jane had a particular filing system which worked for her. You'll probably want to go through, if you're administering it and so on, you'll probably want to go through and put your own filing system in place. But it'll be time consuming for you to go through it all, I'm sure. But at the same time, it'll probably bring you very quickly up to speed of what we have been doing and where we're up to with things. So it probably won't be a bad exercise, if that makes sense. Assuming you're okay doing it.
Doing what? You skipped me there. You skipped me. I missed some of that, what you said.
Yeah, I was saying that I'll send you, everyone's got password and so on and the login credentials for the email. People are periodically just having a look themselves to see where we're up to. Obviously Jane had a particular filing system that worked for her. You'll probably want to change that in a way that works for you. So I think if you get a chance, just start sort of having a look at the stuff in there. And it'll also bring you up to speed very quickly of what we have been doing and where we're up to with things. That's assuming that you're willing to do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So quickly moving on to 2.3, replacement boiler and pending authorizations. I had a brief chat with Carl earlier on this one. Thompson keeps going on about a couple of pending items that he's mentioned before. I don't know if he's mentioned these in emails. I can't see any evidence he has. Or he's just had informal chats with Jane. I do recall Jane mentioning a few of these. but it seems like that might not filter through to the right people. So I think, Carl, we agreed earlier that you're going to reach out to him and just see if we can get a bit of clarification on the leisure facility related stuff and any other items on that one. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll reach out to him tonight. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you, Carl. Julie, you got your hand up?
Did anybody touch base with Sharon Wiley, who has the heat source pump company? She offered to help us.
Do you know what? I personally remember it being talked about. I personally haven't. I don't think anybody else has either. I think it's one that might have slipped under the radar.
I think it slipped under the radar, to be honest.
That would be, from
I think
just my, that would be a first port of call to speak to her. She has a business and has reached out to us as a leaseholder, so that might be a definite look at.
Good call, Julie. Can you forward me?
I'll get some contact details, Carl, and I'll forward them on to you.
Okay, I'd be very surprised if a heat source pump would equate to the size of, the output of a boiler for that pool.
So we can explore it. It's worth reaching out.
I believe I did look into it at one point myself, because there were some other options similar to a heat pump and another version which were more like a solar powered one that would work in the shrubbery area. But again, to do with facilitating the sizing issues, it didn't seem on point at the time, but it's worth exploring with professional advice, which obviously she's facilitating. So yeah, Julie, if you can pass me details, I'll reach out to her. Thank you.
Yeah, because she's a leaseholder and aware of the pool size, so she must have some idea of.
Do we know the size? Do we know the size of the output of them boilers?
I'd expect James to be able to, when he's actually liaising with me, because my position is leisure club. I've not heard anything from him, so I'll touch base with him and I'll get the specifics of what it is they're saying we need and make sure that what we are proposing as other options are run by. And again, it's just a case of, I know we're not big fans of Watsons, but we just need Watsons to commit things to paper, so there's a paper trail against them if anything can be used as proof that they're misrepresenting information or they're trying to facilitate jobs for their preferred contractors, whatever agreements you have with them, commissions or whatever. We just need it to be evidenced in paper.
But you're not going to get that until we start building a relationship with James, whether we like to admit that or not.
No, that's fine. But James is there to facilitate smooth connections, so he shouldn't be avoiding certain people. He should provide the same level of professionalism that he does with you, with me. So he shouldn't be avoiding me on site and such. It should be, he needs to work hard with his level of communication.
About this. I did have a chat with him earlier about this and said that, look, it can't continue being myself and Jane, well, obviously not Jane now, being the focal point of communications. You've got Ron, who is asking you a lot of questions. You need to engage with Ron, you need to engage with Carl, and you need to engage with the others. We're going to try and minimise head pecking in constantly, but at the end of the day, it's not going to kill him to take a few phone calls. Julie,
or even...
Yeah. I'm just a bit confused why Watsons are still dictating who gets to speak to them and who doesn't.
Yeah, this is what we're trying to hash out now.
They're not dictating. I think there's been, since we started this some 6 weeks ago now, I think it was sort of, it was a trap that we fell into where myself and Jane sort of engaged with them quite quickly by phone and so on. Whereas, and I think that didn't allow other people an opportunity to do that. So they're not dictating as such. Avoidance is a better word.
I think the key issue was a temporary measure put in place until they facilitated communications, which would have then allowed us to communicate better with leaseholders as well as Watsons. And this was kind of like, I feel, a bit of a delaying tactic, because it were only like, week 6 or just before week 6 when we actually had an official communication channel that we could start filtering things to leaseholders, such as the questionnaire and such. So now we're at a position
where we can start moving on. We just need to build like portals for individual directors to be able to facilitate communication through that rather than personal emails, because we don't want to fall under the trap of GDPR and such in regards to communication forms.
Julie, you may not be aware of this because obviously everything kicked off in the last sort of 10 days and sort of distracted from it, but basically a couple of complaints were received. We were violating GDPR, and we sort of realised very quickly that we had to stop communicating with leaseholders for that reason, because we were in violation of GDPR. So we've now sort of partially resolved that issue with the Mimco email address. We do need individual ones going forward. I'm not quite sure how far along Jane got with that, and I did see a message from James saying that he was now running with it. Again, James is not on the call, so I'm not certain. It's very frustrating. You've walked into something where despite how it does appear, an awful lot of work has gone into things, and it's very slow progress. I'm not going to lie, it is very, very slow progress on a lot of fronts, and the minor knick-knack fronts as well, which is just completely tripping us up. But anyway, if we move on to the next one, just quickly, no, I'll get through these points. Carl, can you just? Oh, sorry, you muted yourself. Replacement boiler pending authorizations. There's also an issue with the emergency generator. Again, I don't know anything about it. Carl's going to chase up in the morning. No other issues not already in the process or already noted. So that sums off all of Jane's points. James's points. Use of Asana. I think there's mixed views on this one. James is not here, so I propose we bypass it. The previous email account must be obtained. That has essentially now been shut down. However, I have gone back to Ian saying I'm not interested. It's gone on for long enough. You're billing the old board for it. Not my problem anymore. In terms of getting the old emails, they've again made it very clear in their reply to Ron that I don't think that's happening. This can be addressed by the letter before action that I'll work on with James this week. 3.3, discuss whether all the directors involved in all discussions on a single email with joint access is set up. Well, I think we've addressed that one already. Discuss if we should set up a website. A website is already set up. It just needs someone to administer it. And again, James put himself forward for that anyway. How do we feel considering whether legal advice of Watson's is correct? I will come back to that one because of events of today since I sent these minutes out. 3.6, what do we do about the dispensation? I will come back to that as well. 3.7, well, that's a duplication. 3.8, it's a duplication. Insurance, we've already addressed. Dispensation, again, it's a duplication. Roof damage, I will come back to because it ties in with the conversation this afternoon. Leaks, right, okay, the leaks. Taking aside the obvious leak in the building, we're running into an issue with the soil stacks. All the seals are now separating, and this is largely age related. It's not design defect related, despite what Ed was sort of saying earlier on. And appreciate Ed did caveat that by saying he didn't have a full understanding where we were up to with things. But it seems, based on the information that we got at the weekend from Juno, speaking with the contractor that came out. Juno was incredibly helpful this weekend, Carl and I think Ron as well, were speaking with Juno on and off this weekend. We were trying to coordinate what was going on and get access to different apartments and things. So it does seem the consistent story that a lot of the seals are starting to come apart. It's an age-related thing. The problem this gives us is each time this happens, we're incurring call-out costs, damage, repair costs, some of which is going through insurance and redecorating costs. And then you run the risk that another seam somewhere in that same vertical chain is going to come apart. I hate to say this, but I think we need to be proposing ourselves a maintenance strategy for this, which means looking at vertical chains on a rolling 3 to 6 month basis. Now, I'm not saying that we do that with Watson's, but it's something we need to put in place with the new management company coming in. It's going to be a recurring issue. And the way we're going through things at the moment, Carl, can you do me a favour? Just mute yourself. Thank you. The way we're going through things at the moment, I think very quickly we're going to exceed the costs in these ad hoc efforts versus a structured maintenance programme. And I think we'll meet that in about 12 months. So it's just one that we need to be mindful of and perhaps have further discussions on. Incidentally, the leak to apartment 69, Let me just check this because I did write this down earlier. The leak to apartment 69, I believe it was. Yes, 69. And all the subsequent damage from that particular leak is down to a damaged toilet, which Watson's are adamant is leaseholder responsibility. They are going to be billing the leaseholder for the call outs, all the subsequent damage to apartments underneath. The leaseholder is going to be getting a bill apparently of about £4,000 to £5,000. I have no further info on that one at this present time.
60,
Julie, you've unmuted yourself. Go on.
yeah, apartment 69.
69, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I meant to
affected my
look earlier who
apartment.
it was. Oh, it's a Deepak somebody.
This needs double checking because Ron and myself met the contractor and he'd highlighted an issue with the apartment above, and his understanding was that it may have been an issue that continues down because of a weak point created by the previous repair jobs. Am I right, Ron?
You're right, but that was the fall pipe, wasn't it? But
that way
it started off at 88 originally.
Yeah.
Which affected my apartment. So I have to be a bit of an authority on it, chasing this one. And then, as we said, 69, I don't think it was that fall pipe at all. It was, I think, as mentioned, this toilet business, which has been resolved now, by the way.
And that's evidence.
I believe it's been resolved. The repairs have been affected, but Watsons are pursuing a claim against the leaseholder. The leaseholder is going to be issued with a bill. I haven't approved anything with James this morning. He told me purely for information. I've asked him for some further details, but I don't actually know whether we can or can't authorise him to pursue a leaseholder, or if they're just doing it by default. I'm not sure where we stand on that one.
I'm a bit confused.
As I understand it, Stuart, I've got to make a claim to Watsons, like I did previously from apartment 88, although the faults were different. But he's told me to send the bill into Watsons. So whether Watsons insurances are going to pay and then they're going to challenge 69, I don't know how they're going to work it.
I got the impression Watsons were pursuing them directly. That he literally said that they're going to send him a bill for £4,000 to £5,000. Carl, sorry, you were going to say something?
So how does this then relate to the fact Tids's toilet issues covered by insurance? I'm a bit confused.
I'm also confused on this because of my own situation. Yeah, I'm also a bit confused on this one, unless it's a case of that particular leaseholder doesn't have insurance.
Because the issue obviously is that the toilets and stuff are a concealed unit. They're not an open unit. So does that affect things with? Because if that's
the building structure, Carl, it's not part of the building structure.
Right, it's just because replacement bathrooms and kitchens form part of the insurance policy, as far as I can recall. But obviously, we need a copy of that in place. We don't need to highlight. We just need a very thorough.
It depends on the source of the leak, doesn't it? If it's
in terms of individual insurance, my understanding, and Juno and I talked about this at the weekend, my understanding is that you're liable literally from what is from wall to wall, as in interior wall surfaces of your apartment. But that can't quite necessarily be correct because presumably there's the balconies as well. I've got to be honest, in terms of this leak issue, because we were focusing so much on the soil stack issue, this broken toilet in 69 only came to light this morning, and I haven't had a chance to really look into it. I do also think here there is an element of we're in danger of taking too much on for every single leaseholder. So for now,
I think the thing is we need it.
Look into that. You guys look into it, but I think there comes a point where we have to let Watsons actually do
their job
of some description. Because we're in real danger here of administering everything and getting nothing done. And you know what that makes us? Idiots.
I think the thing is we just need things signing off from Watsons. We need a paper trail that holds them to account and gives us the cover that we should have by having a management agent in place to represent us. So just as long as anything told to us verbally is backed up in writing, so it forms a chain of evidence, I think that's the key thing for me.
I couldn't agree more, but I think, for all we know, this leaseholder might have already accepted liability. It's Deepak somebody or other, Deepak, Lurpak, whatever they're called. We never got in touch with them before the AGM. We couldn't establish contact. So I'm inclined to say, let's wait until they approach us and focus our efforts on bigger fish. And I'm not saying that to penalise them. I just think, as I said before, we're in danger
No,
of
we've got enough to do.
the managing agent.
Yeah.
Let's wait until they come back to us. Julie, I'd actually like your opinion on that, because you must be horrified at what you've just heard me say.
Horrified in what way?
Because I know we got into this to look after all leaseholders, but there is a limit to how much we can do that with every little item. And as I said before, I think in this one, we don't have enough information. We're not going to get the information. I think we have to wait for the leaseholder to approach us before we can really get involved and wade in on it.
I'm not quite understanding this, Stu. So what you're saying is that the toilet, so everything in our apartment. I mean, I do have insurance, so do we need to then promote or to advise leaseholders that they ought to be getting insurance for themselves?
Technically, it's in your lease, so I think we should definitely put it out there that people are required to have insurance. I'm sure it's in the lease that you should have it.
I think it's been put out there, Stu. I think it's already been put out there.
I think we did. In this particular case, we don't have enough information other than a throwaway statement from Watson's that they're sending a bill to a leaseholder. I don't think it's something we should really wade into at this point. I think we have to have a certain amount of trust that Watson's are doing some things themselves. We can't administer every Watson's function. We're only 8 people. We just can't do it. And I understand
that, but I wouldn't trust Watson's with anything, which I know
I don't, but I'm hoping. I mean, let's be honest, Julie. If you got a bill for five grand from Watson's because of a broken shitter, I'm pretty sure you're going to be on the phone to them straight away, or on the phone to the board of directors.
Yeah.
I think we need to wait for the leaseholder, because we don't know the full story. He might have already admitted liability. We don't know. But so taking aside 69, we do have this issue with the soil stacks. And again, just for everyone's info, over the weekend, a lot of effort went into getting emergency access, not because it was a particular leasehold or anything like that. It was the amount of water that was genuinely going into that apartment. It needed to be treated as an emergency. This is obviously some things that a lot of people don't see happening in the background, but it pretty much monopolized Poppy. It pretty much monopolized myself and Carl all of Saturday, and to a lesser degree. And sorry, Ron, I didn't mean to discount you there. I think you were involved as well. So yeah, it's just really an update that the soil stacks are going to become a major issue in the building in the next 24 months.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. Equally, though, once the rain starts coming,
well, I'm glad you've moved us on to that one.
There's going to be water pouring in everywhere, isn't there?
Yeah. I
think the services soil stacks, those, aren't they? Not so much the rainwater.
It's grey water, isn't it? It's from the toilets and drains.
It's the grey water, isn't it?
There's nothing else on James's issues here that hasn't already been addressed. Other items, list of needed SOPs. Well, it's a low priority, but as I said, we've got the procurement one more or less finished. Adoption of standardized branding. Well, Julie and I can talk about that later this week. But in short, I've got very specific formatting requirements, Julie. Jane was very bad at this. Jane would not listen to me. I like 1.5 line spacing. I like a certain font. You and I understand each other. It'll work well. Come on, Julie, that was a joke. Hello, Julie.
She's on mute. Julie's on
mute. I know.
Sorry, I tried to. It's not when I'm going to unclick the mute. It's not doing it straight away. Right, branding. You've lost me with branding there.
Basically, the appearance of letters and the simplified letterhead and stuff like that. Jane had a particular way of doing it, which I personally didn't like. But now she's gone. I'm sure we can work on something together, and we'll do it my way.
Right.
So yeah, right. Quick updates on other things. Excess service charge. I understand from a conversation with Dan this afternoon that Eddie has now finalised it. Watson's are scratching their head, wondering why we haven't approved it. At which point I said, because nobody at Watson's has actually sent a formal request for us to approve it. We know what the amount is. It's 69 grand. Now, we've got to keep in mind that we're going to have to authorise it because essentially that debt is offsetting the current reserve fund. Whether we like it or not, it's there and it offsets it. So we need to approve it. And we all knew this was coming anyway.
Can we?
Feroz has done a bit of checking on it and thinks it's legitimate, but I won't approve anything.
True.
None of us will approve anything without Feroz's input. Yeah.
All right. I was just wondering, obviously, people have been hit with the second half bill, which obviously we knew what it was going to be because it wasn't really for us to alter the previous board's financial year.
We have already, I know where you're going with this. We've already agreed with Ian that we delay actually releasing it once it's approved for a period of, I think we said 60 days. But I need to recheck
just because people will be stung with it, and we need to protect as many leaseholders from having too many bills in quick excess of each other. I know some pay monthly, but the majority either pay twice yearly or maybe quarterly. So it should give a bit of leeway for leaseholders, and we just need to get something to them so they're aware that it'll be coming, and a rough time frame just so they can start saving now. Or doing what we can to safeguard themselves.
From the point, the maximum we could agree, because
it's probably 2 months, I think.
It is 60 days, and
yeah,
Ian has extended that to us. I mean, we could ask for 90 days.
I think, but then you go into the next quarter, which is
exactly,
then ghosting
so
people who are paying quarterly. So I think two months gives shareholders a good footing. It might not be ideal, but this money isn't our responsibility. This money is the former board's decisions and circumstances that they necessarily didn't see, like utilities and such. So it just needs addressing that it's not an excess due to us. We are doing what we can to facilitate an ability for them to pay it later on in the year. Just to safeguard them from too many bills in one go, and that's all we can legally do.
Fully agree. What I would say on that front, though, is let's be honest, we couldn't have been clearer on the run up to the AGM. We couldn't have been clearer from November time last year that this was coming.
I know, but people just get hurt when
people forget and they get hit with it. I know that, but again, there's a limit to what we can do. And as Minico,
I think we're doing. Yeah, I think that covers off everything we can do, and we just need to make it clear that it's something we've inherited and we've safeguarded where possible. And I think that's kind of where I'm at with that.
We've done the due diligence. We've all known it was coming. We've restructured the payment terms for it. I'm honestly struggling, guys. If anyone's got a better idea of how to deal with this, I'm all ears. But honestly, I'm not seeing it.
It's what we've got to do. It's inherited. We've made measures. Whether we like Watson's or not, at least Watson's have facilitated that as well alongside us. So, not that I'm a biggest fan, but credit where it's due.
Just on another,
sorry, Ron, go on.
You know this second payment now that's due.
Yeah.
What did we say we were going to do with that? Did we say we were going to hold off that because it might go into Watson's coffers and we might never see it again? Or are we paying it because there's only a 14-day window, isn't there?
To be honest, we're not in a position to open a bank account. If we advise people to restructure, sorry, Julie, I think you may be vaguely aware of this from other chats, but if we advise people to restructure their payments, we're going to go into a negative cash flow situation.
Well, I normally pay, in 2 payments, Stuart. That's my particular.
I restructured mine 2 years ago to go to quarterly. Carl, can you mute yourself, please?
So, Ron, can I ask you a question then? If like you continue to pay in 2 lots, potentially then changing management companies, then you could lose your money.
Well,
if it's not ring fenced by Watson's, then they could hold on to your money and you might have to then start paying against somebody else, might you? Is that not the case?
What's the consensus of common sense then?
Okay, well, in terms of ring fencing, Feroz is on the case with that, and he is actively on the case with it. But the account is not probably going to be ring fenced by the time the money goes in. I think reality is looking at it, there should be 230 something K if everyone was paying as per the terms of the lease. There isn't. What's expected in is about 140K. And what that tells me is that the majority of people have restructured their payments to either quarterly or monthly, but obviously there is still a significant chunk that are paying twice a year.
Is there not an interest payment on
We're
that,
stuck
Stuart?
between the rock. Sorry, go on.
Is there not an interest payment when you when you spread your payments out?
Direct debit, £2.50 a month, Ron, extra.
It's what, sorry?
£2.50 a month extra to change it to direct debit. I looked into it.
But if you, strangely enough, if you pay quarterly, they charge you £50 extra a year, 2 times 25 for extra scheduled payments. So you could argue a lot of these charges are actually immoral, if not illegal anyway, because you're not supposed to profiteer off people's financial instability.
Yeah.
But the onus is on individual leaseholders to argue that point. We've got that message out there. We tried to get that message out there. The onus is on individual leaseholders to a certain degree to argue that point themselves. All we can do is keep guiding them and advising them that.
Just a quick
going
one,
off topic,
Stu.
we're talking about £25 versus the initial question of what happens if Watsons get their hands on this money.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to forward £2,000 to them.
Have we? Are we able to get them to ring fence the reserve fund at least? Because did you not mention it was just a current account or something, Stu?
It's a current account. I've already said to Ian we want to get the money away from them. But this was before Paul's discovery at the weekend that we actually can't open a bank account. So we need to
we need to find a way to safeguard stuff, don't we?
From what you're telling me, it looks like the best option is to do a standing order, doesn't it? Then we just limited, Stammy's limitation, then, isn't it? Things go off tits up.
Absolutely.
I think
speaking,
this is a wider. Sorry, Carl, go on.
Just a quick one. When I was speaking with Liv today and other management agents, they were saying that a management agent shouldn't be profiteering through restructuring payments as long as the payments are made. It shouldn't be at detriment to leaseholders. So hopefully this won't be an issue going forward once we get a new management agent in place.
And again, in terms of the current management agent, we can advise leaseholders, and we have advised leaseholders that they need to be asking those questions. We can't do it for them. We can ask the question on behalf of them. That's fine. And as I say, I'm happy to pick that up, but I need support of the leaseholders to individually be challenging their own bills. But to go back to the bigger question of the payment that's about to go in, Julie, the board have discussed this a couple of times now, and we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. If we do not have cash going in, despite what James, I'll rephrase that, not despite what James is saying, but it's not an idle threat from Watsons. If we go into a negative cash flow situation, we are leaving ourselves open, very much so. And plus, if we go to monthly payments, we don't have enough to pay the insurance in one go. And I know that's a pending issue that James is working on. There's all these many things, big expenses we simply can't cover because the money's never going to be there. If we go to monthly payments, we'll be lucky if we break even on the actual building expenditure, never mind some of the bigger issues that we need to find money for. It's not conducive.
Stu?
Yeah.
I think the points kind of are, for a bit of context, is like things like keeping the building compliant by having the fire safety checks, by having the fire alarm testing, all those things. They all have a cost and it mounts up. So if everyone's paying monthly, it's like we end up in a situation where we've not got cash flow to do other jobs. And then if we're not doing other jobs and general repairs, then things that are minor issues could become more costly issues. So by not having the money available, it creates issues down the line further.
So like I say, we're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think the best option here is for Roz needs to crack on and come up with a solution in light of Paul's discovery at the weekend, which has pretty much been confirmed by Ed tonight. We actually can't open a bank account. So we've wasted 10 days, 2 weeks chasing that. We need to go back to the idea of what we can do to get that account with them ring fenced. So I think that's an urgent follow-up action to revert back to looking at the ring fencing option.
So it's fair to say then, Stuart, that paying it all off in one go is not a very viable option at the moment.
What?
Depends how you look at it, Ron. It depends how you look at it. It depends whether
it's good for the mill. It's good for the mill if you see what I mean. But it's not good for you, Ron. By topping the coffers up, but not good for the individual if things go wrong.
I'll be honest. I'm paying quarterly because I think quarterly. My attitude's quarterly anyway with my attitude to things. So I think if we're paying quarterly, it's giving us a chunk of money. It's allowing us to facilitate the essentials such as the insurance, which we need to at some point come to a decision about with James's due diligence on the legal side of that and move on from that and sign off or sign a reason why we're not paying it or whatever, but we need it in writing from James, the reasoning behind it, and then we need a vote on whether we back that or whether we pay the insurance. We just need to be ticking things off. We need to be doing our own due diligence, and we need to be sure that we're doing right by the mill, the shareholders, and ourselves as directors. Julie, your hands up. Yeah,
as you know, I'm very sort of brutally honest, and I have changed mine to direct debit. I have lost 60% of John's pension.
Julie, you've gone on mute.
Oh, sorry, I will not. Sorry, I've lost 60%. John's lost 60% of his pension. We've lost our savings due to the situation of the EWS1 not being able to, you know, with the mortgage situation, having to pay the mortgage off because we can't remortgage it. And selfishly, whether you see it that way or not, I have changed mine to direct debit. I am not any more money.
Apologies, Julie. I wasn't meaning that at you. I was just meaning with.
Carl, it was not directed at you. I was just saying.
No, but I've slightly misspoke. I was just meaning in Ron's case, going from half yearly to quarterly.
Yeah, I'm just trying to explain.
Nobody's taking offence, Carl. No one's taking offence, and Julie's explaining.
No one's taking offence, Carl, at all. I'm just saying, you know me, I am brutally honest, but I'm not prepared to. I understand what you're saying, Stu, rock and a hard place. I cannot lose any more money. And we're
Julie,
not
can I ask you a question?
Totally understand.
Julie, can I ask you because again, I'm not meaning to put you on the spot and tell me to fuck off or whatever. You've come to this conclusion that it was best for you without any real insight as to what we've been facing over the past few weeks in this difficult decision. But you, as an impartial observer who's become more aware of the mill situation, have come to that decision by yourself. True or false?
Yeah, true.
My point here is, again, how far do we go in administering individual leaseholders' personal finances?
We can't.
Can't. It's a full-time job as it is. I mean, James made a point this, many times, saying that, you know, how much time he's devoting to it. It's the same with all of us, unfortunately. And I think we've put it out there already that, you know, this is, I mean, I've had no end of leaseholders phoning me and asking me what they thought I should do. And I've put it to them on the table. If you restructure, it's good for you. If you do restructure, though, it's going to be bad for the mill. And you could actually make your investment a lot worse than it is now. And you could leave a situation where we go into negative numbers and then we're no longer compliant on any number of fronts. And I think most people I've spoken to have gone away and ultimately come to one decision or another. We do need to get the money ring fenced. And I think that's we should just, anybody that asks, we should just give them that answer. That's my honest opinion. I don't want to see leaseholders lose money. We can get the account ring fenced, but I think, let's be honest, that nobody's wanting to. No one can afford to pay at the minute. That's the problem.
If it was ring fenced, I would have paid it all like I always do. I've been paying in two halves for 20 years.
Yeah, Julia, I don't doubt it. I don't. And the annoying thing is, as I said before, we lost 2 weeks chasing our tail, trying to open a bank account to discover we can't. And we dropped the ring fencing option because of this idea of opening a bank account.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to have to go, I'm afraid.
All right,
Quite okay. Is there a conclusion, or are you carrying on?
There's a couple of other points I need to quickly run through, just other updates. But I mean, you'd be able to download a transcript, Paul, or whatever, and you'd be able to pick it up from there.
Okay, smashing. Cheers, guys.
Oh, thank you to Steph as well.
See you, Paul. Thanks,
Cheers
Steph.
now. Cheers, Carl. Cheers. Sally.
Stu.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where do we stand then? It being a legal requirement to ring fence money if they haven't done it, Watsons.
I don't know if it's a legal requirement. James hasn't come back to us with his findings on that one.
I thought we'd already looked this up a while ago as individuals.
I seem to remember we looked it up and it was a bit. I believed it was. It's a question that I think we flung over to James to look at, and he hasn't come back to us with anything.
I thought
equally,
another management company had confirmed that as well.
Honestly, Julie, with everything going on, I can't recall.
Okay.
Sorry, I'd love to give you that. I just genuinely can't recall, and I don't want to misspeak.
But no, if once another management company's in place and the money's needed for that, I'd go back to paying, the whole lot. But while Watsons are still there, I'm not doing it. I'm not risking it.
Just a quick one. Whilst I've been speaking with management agents, what they've been saying is if Watsons, for example, do a professional handover with them being Ricks and Armour and all that stuff, any overtaking management agent will simply write to the overriding body and get them to intervene on their behalf. So they'll step in and make sure a smooth action's gone. Otherwise, Watsons would lose their accreditation. So whilst we're trying to be nice, or we have been, we are now stepping it up a level. But whoever the agent coming in is, they'll be able to go more hardcore and deal with a professional handover. So that's just a point for your ease of mind. And going forwards, there are positives. It's also good that we've been getting more information from different agents and stuff. So there are things that seem complex to us, don't seem as complex to professional bodies who do this as the bread and butter. So once we've got that, once we can filter down, once we can cut it down to maybe 3, 5 or 7 companies, they can then do their spiel to us as a board rather than me dealing with it or me and Sally dealing with it. And then we can start to formulate where we go from there. It's just, Stu's being helping, James has been helping. Ron's joined a few of the online chats as well. So we are making progress. It's just obviously an action. A research isn't an action. We can just say we're looking into things, but we can't actually say too much because we don't then want 135 leaseholders or whatever looking into what we're looking, because companies will just get peed off that there's too much effort coming towards them when we're actually paid to run other sites. So Stu and I are working on a document, and that'll be released to all the directors, and then hopefully that information will eventually filter through once there's an action plan in place to the leaseholders, so then we've not been sat on his asses doing nothing, but now we've got communication channels. We should be able to get the leaseholders more involved and updated going forwards, because I know that element has been missing a bit, but that again has been played where we've had limited abilities to do things legally and compliantly, and that's now getting hashed out and we're in a better place, and we just need to progress where we are allowing a level of transparency to leaseholders to know where we're wrong in the journey. I'm just
I
going
will be clear on this point though, Carl. I will not be chairing any online leaseholder meetings. I will not be doing it.
That's fine, Stu. It just escalated, and there's a lot of emotions because of a lot of major issues, and we know it. But when we're all functioning on,
it's not just a meeting, Carl.
I know,
it's not just a meeting.
I know.
It's been endless for 5.5 weeks. And I don't mean any disrespect to Joan whatsoever here. It's not. I mean, Joan's been very supportive for most of that time, but other leaseholders, it has been endless with them. I mean, I sort of stood up for Nick and said he was getting hassled all the time. I've been getting hassled all the time, and I can't do it anymore. It's distracting me from other things, including work and this. And I'm at a point where I feel that I just don't want to. And Julie, please don't be offended by what I'm going to say now. I cannot commit that level of myself to each individual leaseholder that was seeming to be expected. I just can't do it. So that's why one of the reasons I removed myself from the groups, and it's one of the reasons why I'm happy to crack on in the background, get all this done, hand it over to whoever can run with it, and say they've done whatever. I'm not really bothered about that. I just want to get it done and get it out of the way. But I don't want the leaseholder interaction. It was absolutely killing me.
Is it necessary to have a live leaseholder interaction session?
I think it is, because we promised it.
It's something that were promised. It was promised, so we do need to carry on with it. I think, however, if it gets to where it's the same 7 faces all the time, or 6 faces or whatever, we need to look at maybe doing quarterly or seeing what the room want, because it is important they do have a connection to us. But obviously, if we're on a meeting for 3 hours, that's 3 hours we could spend actually pursuing other stuff. I mean, today we're obviously on a fast approaching 3-hour meeting that were dominated by something that could have easily been put off to another time through relevant parties. So we just need to stop that from happening going forwards and really consolidate meetings. Because obviously I've been on site.
I'm not being funny. I sent round a pretty strict minutes with time allocation, and several times.
I know you did, Stuart. It were very good agenda. If we'd have been able to follow it, it'd been very good. It started off well. It just snowballed, and hence we're open to close within 3 hours of the commencing of the meeting.
I think that we did get some useful insight from Ed, and if we can follow up with that, then it has been time well spent. Going back to the other issues we need to quickly run through tonight. Okay, so I had a meeting with Dan today for an hour at Watson's regarding why the hell he's not claiming for the balcony on 7 repairs from the insurance. He said that in his opinion it's not an insurable risk. Him and James are batting this one back and forth. I did however say to him, yeah, but have you actually tried? Have you actually tried this as a case? Have you put this forward to them? He doesn't believe it has been. So he has agreed that they will be submitting that to the insurance company for their feedback. Now, if it turns out the insurance company does step up and cover this, then there's some good news in that it's all fruit of the poisonous tree. So the Blakey case would immediately be covered, but it is already covered by the same insurance, if that makes sense. But it would mean we could quickly resolve the Blakey case. We could get the repairs done through the insurance without Jo needing to go through her case. So that's a bit of a silver lining if indeed the insurance company confirms that they'll allow that to happen. But I think they'll reject it on the grounds of it not being an insurable risk. I've also said, why the hell aren't you claiming off the insurance-backed guarantee from the previous balcony works? Danny's the first person at Watson's that ever constructively had a conversation with me about this. And he said that he wasn't aware this was in place. He's going to look into it. If that is indeed in place, then we should be going down that route, and he's going to support going down that route. And he's going to, I mean, he needs to put his money where his mouth is and include us in copy. He might have just been blowing smoke up my skirt kind of thing, but I didn't get that impression. I really think he's quite genuine about saying, actually, we never thought of this, or it's never come to my attention before. Let me look into it. So, and he has been fairly straightforward so far with a lot of his stuff. So hopefully he's going to be coming back to us with some info on that. Separate to that, there's the original building guarantee. I asked him why no one's ever lodged it was a known defect from before the building guarantee expired and Bink's board were removed. Why the hell hadn't Watson at any point made a recommendation that it be pursued under the building guarantee and the latent defects guarantee that Ed mentioned earlier? Latent defect guarantee is actually what Dan said to me. He said they might not be able to do it through the building guarantee even retrospectively, but the latent building defects guarantee, or legislation, they might be able to. So he's going to ask questions to see if Watson's ever looked at that, and if they did and advised Binks to do it, they are covered, which means Binks are liable. So there may be something there. Chances are nothing will come from any of this, but at least we're looking at these options. We just need to get them to put these findings back to us in writing. There's been a letter to Comedy Council regarding, I think this is related partly because of ongoing concerns by leaseholders and possibly ongoing concerns by a concerned leaseholder group. But this letter to Comedy Council is basically bitching about the building not being compliant because of cladding. They're going to send off a copy of the fire risk external wall assessment which clearly states that the cladding is not an issue for our building. That should suffice in addressing Comedy Council's concerns about the building and cladding. However, they're also going to make a note in there that there is a pending liability issue regarding the balconies, with a view of seeking Calderdale Council's assistance in determining liability, which I thought was also a very late gesture from them. Why they couldn't do this previously, I have no idea, but at least they are now starting to think without being prompted. So again, I took a bit of a silver lining away from that one. Section 20 dispensation process, we had quite a robust conversation on that one because he wants us to authorise it and I'm saying no. Really needed James to be on the call, but he wasn't available. Now, my take on this is, I said to him, with all the problems that have been lodged against that Section 20 dispensation, given the fact that Watson's still have not proved in writing it was authorised by the previous board, because I don't think they did. I think Watson's took this on themselves and the other board just went along with it. But they still haven't confirmed who authorised it in writing. They've given no supporting evidence. Given the fact there's only one person quoted for it, given all the discrepancies in the submission that we've already all individually reported to the tribunal service, I said to him, how long do you think it's going to take that tribunal service to approve that? He said, it could be 2 months. It's more likely going to drag on past 3 months. At which point I said, how quick could you put this through a normal Section 20 process and get 3 quotes in place? They are struggling getting quotes according to him, but I think that's bullshit. But he reckons that they could do that within a 2 to 3 month time frame. So my stance on this is cancel the dispensation because we do not want that checkbook opening and put it through a normal Section 20 process.
Quick one, Stu.
Yeah.
Oh, Julie.
So who would be doing the Section 20 process?
Section 20 would still go through the management agent.
What's
However,
Watson?
Just bear with me a sec, Julie. The issue is they're not wrong in terms of companies not getting back to them. I recommended 6 companies because I were a director. I was aware this dispensation were going through. They did approach directors asking us if we did have any recommendations. Now, I'm not a builder, I don't have the background, but I did go on Google, I did look up Google reviews, etc., and I found 6 local companies rather than national companies. So I did put them forward. Now, one of them got back to me saying, we've not heard of the project, but then Watson's actually supplied me with evidence that they had contacted this company. When I approached the company again for confirmation, they said, oh yeah, they might have done, but if we've not taken on a job, we delete the correspondence. So I looked a bit of a plonker, thinking Watson's have lied to me, when actually Watson's provided me evidence and me with the company that didn't realise that they had responded and then closed off and deleted. I'd not heard back from the other 5 companies when I chased them up, so perhaps Watson's in that instance are telling the truth. However, there wasn't in the instance of the Section 20 for the balconies, because I wanted to
cut you off there.
Go on.
Sorry to cut you off there. I did point this out to Dan earlier that because the problem he's got going through a Section 20 dispensation process where he provides 1 quote is nobody believes that there aren't other people that are going to bid for it. And the reason nobody believes that is because the fuck up that was the EWS1 Section 20. He obviously couldn't comment on my report to him that there's a number of companies they claim they've approached where we've checked and been told, no, Watson's haven't approached us. Obviously, he couldn't comment on it. But he got the idea.
Just a quick one, because I'm hoping going forward we end up in a situation where we have a person who sees a job through to completion and a contractor that deals with a problem and rectifies the problem at their own cost if they're negligent. What we always seem to go through is cycles of different companies or people in different positions, and that goes not
I can
only
answer
with
that one
Watson's.
for you right now, because I also said to him that, and this is, I believe, quite common knowledge, I understand there is a court document that does say Watson should not be supervised, all the contractors should not be allowed unsupervised to do works in the building. And I asked him to work out how much the cost of an external supervision to make sure it was done properly would be. He thinks that will push the cost up from 27 to circa 35k.
What's that for?
To do the corrections to the roof with a supervised independent inspector on site who we can appoint on their behalf.
What do you mean 27 to 35k? Though? What's that figure relating to?
That figure is relating to the cost of what the Section 20 dispensation has gone in for, the repair of the balcony situation on 7 to stop the leak.
That's actually 44,000 and odd plus VAT, so 50 odd grand, and that's based on 3 apartments with the likelihood.
Oh yeah, I misspoke. There's 27. Okay, I misspoke. There's 27 allocated, so it would push up from the 27 allocated to 35. But the point we've got here is how we deal with the Section 20. And again, it's unfortunate that we're down to just us on the call now. But I think I'm safe in saying that that was loosely what we'd all agreed previously, that we were going to push for it to go through normal application. If the Section 20 dispensation is going to take 3 months versus a Section 20 normal application taking 3 months, let's do it properly. And let's remove that blank checkbook from Watson's. We all know it needs to happen. We need to fix the bloody roof, but we need to make sure we're getting bang for our money.
Yeah.
And we need to get it done before winter kicks in.
Julie's hands up.
Sorry, Julie, go on.
I'm totally not understanding why we would be allowing, bearing in mind you've said sort of 8 weeks to get another management company in. Why would we be using Watson's to do the Section 20? Why would we not wait for a new management company with new
Watson's can't actually bill us for professional fees, and it goes through professional fees. So whilst we're doing our best to get information on Watson's, get them to commit things in writing and such, we do actually need them, not on side, but we do need them facilitating what they're saying to cover us